61. Noah, you can't even beat my alt account, and you still want to come after me? Laboot is an ultra warrior from the land of light. He shouldn't be attacked by Nexus, right? Yeah, and he's here to protect Noah, so he's definitely safe. The chat exploded as Laboot and Titan stepped into the metafield. Sora, Laboot's childhood friend, watched with rising worry. The Queen's explanation in the broadcast only made things worse. If Noah senses malice and loses control, then it's extremely dangerous for anyone. Anyone? That single word made viewers from many worlds hold their breath. Did that include Libut? Some comforted themselves. Wasn't Titan there? Brimming with Yuki, he'd surely rush in to fight. Captain Ree in the Land of Light looked on with curiosity as well, anxious to see what would become of his future self. The camera cut to the metafield, to the exclusive dramatic BGM reserved for space beasts. Titan and Libut scanned their surroundings. Libut stared at his timer. The digits were flashing red. Is this field absorbing our energy? He asked. It looks like it, Titan said. He had no timer, but the drain was unmistakable. His power was slipping away fast. Suddenly, a red light fell from the sky like a meteor, slamming down between them. The impact threw up smoke, sparks, and shattered stone. This is bad, Libut blurted, dodging reflexively. His defensive instinct is treating everyone as a threat. He can't judge calmly right now. Titan pushed himself up, exhausted but unflinching. Whatever he's doing, I cut him down, he said, and charged, gripping his golden sword with both hands. The audience watched, stunned, then laughed. Titan was nothing if not brave. No wonder he made the roster even though he's not an Ultra Warrior, many jeered. He's dead serious. Even some Ultramen from the Land of Light couldn't help smirking. Titan's barrage of golden slashes painted arcs of light in the air, but the youthful Nexus barely moved. With a few minimal shifts, he dodged every blow. Then Nexus struck back, an Ultra Iron Mountain back, a flurry of punches, and a flying kick that smashed Titan aside. Libut scooped Titan up and flew him out of the strike zone. Our energy keeps draining. Do you really think you can beat Nexus in this field? Come with me, Libut shouted. The viewers blinked. The Kingdom Universe and the Land of Light were supposed enemies. What was Libut doing? But Titan, panting, looked up. So what's your plan? He asked. Cooperate for now, Libut said firmly. While my friends search for a way out, we buy time. You want your companions to find an exit? What guarantee do I have? No guarantee, Libut answered. But I trust them. They never give up hope. Titan considered it, then nodded. All right, this is the only way. Libut brightened. Thank you. I'm Ultraman Libut. Titan, Absolution Titan, the other replied, fingers tightening on his sword hilt. The audience finally understood. Nexus was lashing out at anybody in the field. If the two exhausted fighters didn't cooperate, neither would escape. Respect for Titan swelled. Who else would vow to cut down Noah under circumstances like this? Back in the Kingdom Universe, the little Goldman and company watched in silence, uneasy. The little Goldman, Titan's present counterpart, was troubled. He was loyal, not a warmonger like Tartarus. Seeing his future self forced into cooperation gave him pause. If all Ultramen were as moral as Libut, perhaps there would have been no need to seize the Land of Light's Spark Tower. Maybe a simple request for repairs would have sufficed. The idea unsettled him, but he kept watching. On screen, Libut spoke with Sora and learned the key. Destroy the weapon on Nexus's wrist, and the metafield would disengage. The narration clarified, Nexus armament, located on Nexus's wrists, the hardest part of his entire body. The audience bristled. The wrists were supposed to be the hardest part, and Titan and Libut, exhausted as they were, had to break them? Could they really? They were almost knocked aside by another attack, then exchanged a look and unleashed everything they had. Long-range cutter, Titan shouted. Scythe sword, Libut answered. A blue light wheel and a golden light wheel thundered toward Nexus. Then something strange happened. Nexus raised his hands and met their attacks with his own wrist armaments. Sparks flew. A thunderous crack echoed. The Nexus armament flashed with electrical currents and gave off wisps of white smoke. Slowly, the metafield began to collapse. The chat erupted with confusion and accusation. Nexus had been pummeling them at will. Both men were clearly outmatched. Why would he allow their long-range ultimates to strike his supposedly invulnerable wrists? Was he holding back? The armaments, touted as the hardest part of his body, had been damaged by a single hit. Surely no one believed that without suspecting restraint. Before the metafield fully dropped, Labut and Titan were pulled into separate subspaces. There a towering, sacred figure stood. Noah. He glanced at them briefly. Labut bowed. "I understand now," he said. Then the two were back on planet Babel, breathless. The broadcast froze them in a bewildered frame. Noah hadn't said anything. Why did Labut claim he understood? The viewers were baffled. Mebius Yuki Easter Egg Chapter 1, Titan Chapter, ends here. 62. Emperor, the Dark Emperor. Ha! Ha ha! Titan truly has courage. What a stubborn fellow. I seriously wonder if his superiors were trying to find an excuse to get rid of him. He actually tried to challenge Noah. In the Tiga universe, Shinjo and Hori kept up their commentary, replaying Titan's confident sword swing and marveling at his bravado. Daigo laughed along, but beneath it, he felt a strong yearning for the universe that held the Land of Light. He had never expected such things to exist there. How thrilling! Legendary figures like Noah and the Ultraman King. He vowed that one day he must go and see for himself. Victory. Don't you think Nexus is a bit absurdly strong? Someone asked on a distant planet. Ginga looked at Devi thoughtfully. Victory nodded. Yes. He feels far beyond what he was during the Time-Space Castle incident. The two exchanged glances, and a ludicrous thought took root. Why had Edelgar sealed Nexus back then? Could he have been putting on a show? What Ginga and V didn't know was that a certain Psy Rabbit in the space garrison had the same suspicion. Inspired by this footage, 3 other Ultras replayed and recalled the details of that encounter. As they thought it through, dread and disbelief grew. All 3 came to the same conclusion. Someone had been acting. They wondered if future reviews would expose more of these hidden histories. Kingdom Universe. Tartarus hesitated, then turned to Titan. Titan, how about we cancel the Babel plan? Titan looked up. Why? Our goal was only to find out whether Noah really exists on Babel, Tartarus said. Even if Noah's true self isn't there, the place is clearly guarded by serious power. Tazi added, since we already know the outcome, there's no need to press on. Titan remembered the time he had tried to ambush Itis, Cosmos, and Justice all at once. He had destroyed a Legend-class Elder in the process. If he hadn't fled fast enough, Tazi estimated Titan would already have been reborn elsewhere. Thinking of those legendary beings still filled him with lingering fear. He had no wish to provoke them again unless absolutely necessary. But, Titan touched his sword hilt, I still really want to spar with someone as strong as Nexus. Tazi typed a single, exasperated question mark, then messaged, Little Golden Sword, are you really that headstrong? You were battered, and you still want to go again? If you insist, you might not come back. Tazi refused him outright. Elsewhere, as the review video reached its end, audiences across worlds revised their impression of Titan. He had shifted from a cool swordsman to a stubborn, Mebius-like hothead. Good heavens, one of them took a Leo kick straight on the head. The other got stylishly beaten by Nexus and still wanted to slice through Noah. Warriors, both of them. What courage. Laughter and anticipation swept through viewers, remembering the narrator's words that there were several warriors like Mebius. Several, meaning at least 3. That suggested there were contestants yet to be shown. Who would be next? The sky screen altered as promised. Mebius Courage Easter Egg Part 2 is about to begin. I'm just a scientist, so my swordsmanship isn't very good. Nani? Hikari again. The crowd reacted with surprise, then smiles. Hikari's humble, self-deprecating manner was entertaining. One moment he insists he's only a scientist and not as strong as the Ultra Brothers. The next he lifts burden and obliterates it with a beam. If that's not having their kind of strength, what is? When Hikari's name appeared, anticipation spiked. With words like courage and swordsmanship attached, the audience split into 2 camps. One expected Hikari's swordplay to be as shockingly over the top as his downplayed claims. The other suspected that, since the review focused on dark histories, Hikari might be set up for a fall, like Titan, confident but severely beaten. Whatever their guesses, everyone's eyes were glued to the screen, eager for Hikari's scene. Why me again? Hikari sighed in the space garrison. Why did the review always single him out? Zafi grinned and patted his shoulder. What's the problem? It's just a chance for those young ones in the plaza to see your strength. But my swordsmanship isn't worth mentioning. There's nothing good to see, right? Hikari protested. Zophi and Mebius exchanged incredulous looks. Not worth mentioning? Do you even know who the Hunter Knight swordsman is? Zophi looked at Hikari with mild reproach. Hikari was getting the spotlight and didn't even realize it. Young fans were already flocking to him. Zophi, on the other hand, Captain Zophi, had most of his darker moments already broadcast. Hearing Hikari dismiss himself made Zophi clench his fists. What about Hikari's duel with the space swordsman Zashar, or the time he stabbed alien Emperor in the kidney? Zophi kept his mouth shut and said earnestly, "You can't say that. Featuring you is better than featuring Ace. Ace's fighting style isn't something to copy." He cast an irritated glance at Ace, who was squatting in a far corner talking to Minami Yuko, still hopelessly lovesick. As the crowd buzzed, the video began. From the first frame, everyone was stunned. Earth was swallowed in an uncanny darkness. The wind howled as if afraid, the atmosphere thick with the approach of a terrifying presence. Then a grim figure in a black cloak descended from the sky. The moment he touched down, houses exploded one after another. The city was engulfed in flames and reduced to ruins. Dark clouds blotted out the sky. Even the sun seemed to dim beneath his power. The oppressive force, the kingly domineering aura, and the murderous intent of a dark cosmos came through the screen so strongly that beings in many worlds, ultras of the land of light among them, felt their chests tighten, as if they might be swallowed by darkness in the next instant. This is Dark Emperor Alien Emperor? On the land of light, the entire space garrison stared at the screen. Even Father of Ultra struggled to keep his composure. He instinctively clutched his waist as an old injury flared. P.S. I need to make a brief disclaimer here. It's important. Some plots, characters, and settings in the Ultraman universe Aopeng are controversial. Whenever they appear, even a casual line can draw a few fervent critics and ignite a storm in the comments. Please don't take offense. I welcome readers and discussion, but I would rather avoid arguments and insults. I'll do my best to avoid content that encourages comparison or denigration. Mostly, I hope readers can relax and enjoy the story, smiling when they see their favorite characters. That's enough for me. I appreciate everyone's understanding. 63. The Arrival of the Emperor. It's the Dark Emperor. 30,000 years ago, he started the Ultra Great War, one of the Land of Light's greatest enemies. I heard he almost took the Land of Light back then. His power must be even greater than a blackened Belial. The moment Alien Emperor appeared, the whole Land of Light tensed. This was the Dark Emperor, who wouldn't tremble. His strength was legendary. During the Ultra Great War, he wielded a seed-like blade that crackled with lightning, cutting from the South Heaven Gate all the way to Ultra Penglai East Road. If Father of Ultra hadn't received the Holy Sword from Mother of Ultra, awakened his true power, and struck the Emperor's core, shattering it and transforming him into light, no one could say how the world might have turned out. Even so, Father of Ultra was left with a permanent, incurable wound at his waist, a mark that would seed many future troubles. The Dark Emperor. Zero clenched his fists in the space garrison and murmured as he watched the broadcast. Even through a screen, he felt the oppressive dark energy radiating from Emperor. He thought of the Paragai shield and his own hidden trump cards, his shining form, the ultimate armor. If he unleashed them, he could make the Emperor retreat and never come back. Little Golden Man, you can't keep that form up for long, can you? Across the Kingdom universe, the Little Golden Man and his companions watched the same feed, alert but not panicked. After all, the Emperor had once been converted to light. If he was resurrected, the Ultra Warriors would stand against him. Tartarus believed that with his absolute destruction ultimate, he could take Emperor down easily. King of Ultra, you can't maintain that form for long, can you? White Belial snorted instead, remembering something unpleasant. He and the young Father of Ultra had confronted the Dark Emperor in those final moments all those years ago. Belial had thought he could win, only to be overpowered and nearly have an arm broken. It had been the young Father of Ultra who, at the critical moment, received the Holy Sword from Mother of Ultra and awakened. He transformed small horns into great and defeated the Emperor in a blade fight in a cramped, dark room. Afterwards, he rose to captain the space garrison and married Mother of Ultra. From that day, a rift had opened in Belial's heart. He'd hated and envied Father of Ultra ever since. That bull-headed rival had outmatched him in everything: wins, girls, rank, fame. Damn him. Still, old Belial respected Emperor's strength. He scoffed. Humph. Hikari will probably be like Titan fighting Noah, strut out full of confidence and get killed instantly. Could Hikari, even clad in ARB armor, be stronger than the great horned Father of Ultra in his awakened state? Belial grinned at Tartarus and the others. If he breaks Emperor's defense, I'll take my head off and have it made into an ornament. He looked forward to it. This time Hikari would be the cautionary tale. On the broadcast, Emperor's arrival spelled creeping doom for Earth, and perhaps the whole solar system. Dark spots smeared the sun. Its light was being blotted out. I am the ruler of darkness, Emperor declared to Father of Ultra and the people of the Land of Light. The time has come to settle old scores from 30,000 years ago. He raised a hand. Look. Lightning cracked as the dark corruption accelerated across the sun. The sun will be consumed. From now on, all light will dim, and this planet's breath will cease. With a flick of his cape, he snuffed surrounding flames. Under oppressive black clouds, his very presence made people shiver. Ultra warriors, people of the Land of Light, and all who made foolish choices fall into hellish darkness and perish. Since I have descended here, this planet has no future. People in the audience were puzzled. Old scores from 30,000 years ago? What grievance did a cosmic being have with the Land of Light, and why choose Earth as the stage? Why not strike straight at M78 and King of Ultra? Then a small relief spread. Not everyone would rush back to M78. Here, at least, the Land of Light had defenders. In the Tiga universe, Daigo instinctively touched his spark lens as he watched. Unsettled by a premonition, he felt as if one day he would face this very darkness. The camera cut. After his proclamation, Emperor had moved to Guy's base, the Phoenix Nest. But he wasn't the only giant there. The cosmic swordsman Zamusha stood before the nest, blade drawn, coldly watching Emperor. Even facing that terrifying aura, Zamusha didn't hesitate. He charged with sword raised. Emperor, take this. A narration introduced Zamusha, a famed swordsman across the cosmos, immensely powerful. Viewers leaned forward. Surely this warrior had a chance. Zamusha's blade flashed, and his treasured sword, the Star Slasher, rang as it sliced. This blow could cut through a comet. Emperor only raised his left hand. A red flare bloomed in his palm. Ah! Before Zamusha could close the distance, a heavy force struck him and threw him back. Heavy energy wave. The sight stunned everyone. The ultimate swordsman, hailed across the universe, was sent flying by a casual gesture. Helpless. Inside the Phoenix Nest, a young girl frowned and focused on Emperor. It was Xiang. A sharp red glow flared in her eyes. Xiang's telekinesis can repel Mebius. Even Mebius couldn't stand up to her telekinesis? The audience watched, tense. Xiang reached out with her power, but Emperor sensed her. He snorted, and a devastating backlash slammed into her. She clutched her head, screamed, and passed out. Outside, Zamusha staggered to his feet, only to be blasted away again by Emperor's careless wave. At the nest, Hibino Mirai tried to transform and fight, but his body was too badly wounded. He collapsed unconscious. These scenes bred despair. The Ultra Warriors watching clenched fists. None had expected a swordsman like Zamusha to be crushed so easily. Rebels will never be forgiven, Emperor intoned on the screen. He raised his left hand once more. Dark red energy coalesced, and he launched another heavy energy wave, this time aimed straight at the Phoenix Nest. Then, a flash of blue. A figure in shining armor suddenly appeared, standing between the nest and the blast. It was Hikari, the long-awaited protagonist. He'd finally arrived in ARB armor. Countless viewers exhaled in relief. Ah, Hikari was here at last. Now they would see his famed swordsmanship. Would he stop Emperor? Everyone watched with renewed hope. 64. A hymn to courage, the meaning of protection. Officer Hikari, he finally appeared. Go, Hikari. You must protect the Earth. How will Hikari stop Alien Emperor? When Hikari finally showed up on the feed, viewers everywhere erupted. Surely, they thought, the humble swordsman had bested the Dark Emperor with his blade. But the next moment left everyone dumbfounded. The footage showed Hikari in his ARB armor standing bravely before a massive energy wave from Impera. Then, with a thunderous blast, Hikari was blasted aside. He hit the ground hard beside Zamusha and lay motionless. There was no way to tell if he was alive. Are you from the land of light? Emperor asked, slowly lowering his hand, his eyes full of contempt and a cold, hateful edge. For him, the land of light and every ultra warrior were targets of his hatred. The audience went silent. This couldn't be right. Wasn't Hikari the hero who would appear at the last second to save the world? How had he fallen in a single instant? The Dark Emperor's power hit home. He was terrifyingly unstoppable. Even ultra warriors from other universes feared it. Daigo clenched his fists, worrying that his current strength might be inferior to Hikari's arb armor. Against Emperor's psychic might, he might never get a chance to strike. On planet 050, Kurenai Guy stared at the screen, awed. No wonder he started the Ultra Great War. Such dark energy. Only Belial, in the Kingdom universe, felt anything but fear. He felt hunger. Power like that, that's the only thing that matters. Back at the Phoenix Nest, the footage showed Hikari down and unable to rise. Voices rose in the guy's command center. Ultraman Hikari! Mr. Serizawa! Everyone shouted in panic. Damn it, what can we do? Ihara Ryu roared. Are we at our limit? Zamusha, Hikari, even Mebius. If all were fallen, Earth had no power left to stop Emperor. But Ryu refused to accept defeat. He scrambled up and, without waiting, dashed out of the base and climbed into a fighter jet, racing into the sky. Viewers who had seen Ryu argue for Mirai and spar with Gen Otori found new respect for him. He wasn't just impulsive, he loved that place and its people fiercely. Emperor was about to obliterate the Phoenix Nest when the jet screamed into view. The Dark Emperor waved a hand, and a chain of fire explosions engulfed the aircraft. Ryu refused to die. He twisted through the inferno, somehow evading the killing blow. Even if it was hopeless, he would try with everything he had, sacrifice himself if necessary, to protect Earth. Like a mantis before a chariot, his act was both foolish and heroic. We have to hold on, protect our memories, protect Earth's future, he shouted, voice raw. You remember this jet, don't you, Captain Serizawa? Ryu's desperate cry stirred Hikari. He rose, fury lighting him, drew his light blade, and charged, Hikari in the sky, Zamusha on the ground, both pressing toward Emperor at once. Is it happening? Viewers gasped. Spacium ballistic missiles, launch, Ryu barked. The jet spat several missiles trailing fiery contrails, each packed with spacium power, straight at alien Emperor. Explosions hammered the air, fire roared, and shockwaves shuddered the earth. Emperor did not dodge, he simply allowed the missiles to strike. He despised the struggles of such insignificant insects. But the missiles were a feint. Though they could not harm him, they clothed the battlefield in thick smoke and blotted out his sight. Ugh! The Star Slicer master, Zamusha, rallied and charged alongside Hikari. Hikari, cut him down! Officer Hikari, charge! Fans screamed in hope as the two greatest swordmasters in the universe drew together, their blades like coiling dragons, and struck. Across universes, watchers watched in awe. Gaia Universe's Fujimiya, a ghoul's human host, recognized the intent behind the strikes. Such razor-sharp sword intent. Even Hoku Shinitoryu seems a firefly beside this, he muttered. Hyperion's May admired them deeply, as expected of the two famed swordmasters of the cosmos. But the cheers died in an instant. Emperor merely raised his left hand. A heavy psychic wave, blood red and ripple-like, erupted. Though the two swords pierced his palm as they met, the Emperor's psychic power nullified the full-force slashes. Neither blade could reach his body. Incredible, Ryu shouted from his cockpit, disbelief turning his voice thin. Zamusha! Hikari, struggling to his feet, looked at Zamusha as if to speak. Zamusha swallowed, gritted his teeth. Later, they both cried, driving their blades with everything left in them. Emperor snorted coldly and unleashed a surge of psychic force. The two were hurled backward, ground shattered beneath them. Zamusha's Star Slicer flew from his hand. The sight sank like a stone into viewers' hearts. Unbelievable, these two attacked together and still couldn't touch him. In the space garrison, Ace, himself skilled with a blade, watched horrified. Even Father of Ultra, weakened by age and old wounds, felt the bleakness of the moment. Ace glanced at Ah Guang, who sat silent, mourning. Ah Guang's eyes shone with unshed tears. Beside him, Mebius exhaled a sympathetic, helpless sigh. White Belial in the Kingdom universe sneered. Heh! Facing the Dark Emperor, you really think you can be like before? Having once been crushed by Emperor himself, Belial liked seeing Hikari fail. It saved him from losing face again. In the footage, the Emperor's disdainful laughter rang out. Zamusha could barely crawl, but he tried to clutch his sword once more. Empera slapped the remaining strength from him with a brutal psychic wave. Zamusha was launched, writhing in pain, wounds opening across him. Empera didn't stop there. He turned toward the nearby Phoenix Nest base. Rumbles and explosions shook the compound. It teetered on the brink of destruction. "Pull yourselves together," someone cried. "Mirai, are you okay?" As the Guy's members struggled to their feet from the rubble, Empera raised his hand again. It looked like the end. The viewers recoiled. There was no way the Guy's team could survive such a disparity in power. Holding each other, many resigned to death. Then, suddenly, an armored figure stepped forward and stood between Empera and the humans. It was Zamusha. He threw out his body as a shield, taking the Dark Emperor's onslaught to protect the people. For a moment, everyone, viewers and characters alike, sat in stunned silence. Even Empera, usually imperious and amused, showed a flicker of surprise. "You are not of the Land of Light. Why would you?" he began. Zamusha met Mirai's eyes, and with the last of his strength, replied, "This is what you call protection, perhaps." He locked gaze with Mirai, who had just come to. "Mebius," he whispered. Before he could say more, his eyes went dark and he collapsed. Zamusha died fighting to defend humanity. "Mebius!" Hibino Mirai screamed, grief tearing through him. The cosmic swordmaster dissolved into a flurry of tiny lights scattered across sky and earth. Some of those lights drifted into the hands of the humans he had shielded. Even in death, Zamusha's final act was to protect. Zamusha had never been a mindless killer. He was a swordsman who had followed the way of the blade. After meeting Mebius, Hikari, and these fragile humans, his path had changed. Viewers wept and murmured, "Zamusha, he was a good man. Protection doesn't belong only to ultras, others do it too. He died for humanity." Then, like thunder cracking across the worlds, a roar of fury shook the heavens. Hikari, ablaze with rage, rose, shaking with grief and fury. "How dare you? How dare you, Emperor?" Countless viewers sat frozen, breathless. Land of Light. When Zamusha fell, Hikari and Mebius could no longer hold back their grief. They screamed his name. Even after 10,000 years, seeing that moment again tore at them with the same pain and fury. This close friend had chosen to die to protect others, resolute to the end. Countless young Ultra warriors watching across the universe were moved. It became clear that warriors like Zamusha were not unique to the Land of Light. The Ultra spirit did not belong to Ultramen alone. Courage, Yuki, could be found in other forms too. Seeing his comrade's soul scatter, Hikari roared into the fray despite his wounds. He raised his right arm and struck. Lightning flashed and thunder rolled as countless bolts snaked along his night aura. Crossing his arms, he released his most powerful attack yet, the Rainbow Night Ray, amplified by the Arb armor. But to Alien Emperor, it was nothing. With a single careless motion, the Dark Emperor swatted aside the seven-colored beam. Then he lifted his hand and unleashed a wave of blood-red power that hit Hikari like a swat to an annoying insect. Hikari screamed as his body splintered and thick white smoke began to pour from him. For a moment, everyone feared he had died like Zamusha. Then, amid the dust, Hikari was still standing. What had broken was the Arb armor. Relief flared in the crowd. Hikari lived. But that hope evaporated into despair. The Arb armor, infused with the life of the entire Arb planet, had taken the fatal blow and been shattered by Emperor's ordinary strike. If it had been one moment longer, Hikari would have been killed. He was a ruin, wounds covering him, his flesh charred, white smoke rising, his color timer flashing red. Each step he took made his body shake as if it might collapse at any instant. Yet he refused to give up. He planted his feet and staggered forward towards Zamusha's relic, the Seizan Maru, every step a battle. Worlds that had once been enemies watched in silent respect. This was not a cautionary tale. It was a true lesson in bravery. "Arb planet," Hikari whispered. They had failed to protect their home, yet the Arb planet had sacrificed itself to protect him, granting him the strength to keep fighting. He looked up, eyes suddenly blazing with an unprecedented light. "Thank you." Then he rolled, grasped the Seizan Maru, and moved. What followed seared itself into everyone's memory. Like a streak of blue lightning, Hikari's movement was impossibly fast. The Seizan Maru gave off a faint, clear glow in the dark as he poured every last ounce of power into the blade. This was the ultimate sword strike, the most extreme blow he had ever made. His spirit was that of Father of Ultra in his greatest hour, perhaps even surpassing him. Under the stunned gaze of every world, Hikari flashed past Alien Emperor. The Emperor barely reacted, only raising his hand slightly, still not taking the attack seriously. As Impera prepared another crushing energy wave, a scream and the sudden ring of steel split the air. The clouds stilled, the wind died, the heavens and earth seemed to freeze. Hikari had come to a halt behind the Dark Emperor. His sword was driven into the ground and he knelt on one knee. Emperor stood frozen, his hand still half raised, apparently unaware of what had happened. Silence fell. Had he succeeded? Red lights flickered rapidly. Hikari lifted his head slowly and straightened. Captain Serizawa's voice cut through the hush. Ryu, Mebius, the Earth, take them. With that, Hikari's night aura flowed from his wrist into Ryu's hand. Then his body and the Seizen Maru dissolved into thin air. Hikari was gone. The crowd held its breath. Had he failed? Had his sacrifice been for nothing? Alien Emperor howled in anger and pain. The cameras followed his gaze down to his left leg, and everyone saw it. A scar, suddenly there, a golden, elongated wound etched into the Dark Emperor's black flesh. It matched the mark on his waist, gleaming against his dark body. Light particles shimmered out from the wound. Ah! Emperor roared, furious and disbelieving that a mere weakling had struck him. The thing he hated most was light, yet whenever the Emperor was cut, golden light spilled from within. Some joked it was the result of an old clash with Father of Ultra that had literally enlightened him. Across countless worlds, faces went pale with shock and barely contained joy. Hikari had done it. With his last breath and strength, he had left a scar on Alien Emperor, one of only 2 wounds the Dark Emperor had borne in his long rampage across the universe. The other belonged to Father of Ultra. And the one who had drawn this second scar was, by origin and manner, a Blue Tribe scientist, humble, insisting he had no ultra power, yet capable of feats others could only dream of, holding burden with one hand, casually altering a planet's weather, and finally giving the Emperor a sword strike that cut him. In the Kingdom universe, White Belial panicked. He had bragged earlier that if Hikari ever managed to injure Alien Emperor, he would take off his own head and turn it into a weapon ornament. Now that impossible condition had been met. Old Belial fell silent. He could feel the eyes of those around him, especially Tregear on him. Tregear had long been irritated by Belial's dismissive jibes about the Blue Tribe. Hikari had been someone Tregear knew well. With a smile, Tregear spoke. Belial, you said earlier that if Hikari could wound Alien Emperor, you'd make your head into an ornament. I remember him saying that, Titan added, resting his golden sword in his hands. As a swordsman who respected martial virtue, Titan had long admired Hikari and Zamusha, 2 master swordsmen who had earned his deep regard, even as enemies. He tapped his golden sword lightly and asked, So, will you do it yourself, or shall I help you? White Belial froze. 66. Ihara Ryu warning. I'm really impressed. Hikari is ruthless. Even Emperor Belial was stunned. Who would have thought Ah Guang would actually lop off his thigh with a sword? Tsk. That hit close to the lifeline. No wonder he got so furious. I thought he'd be a negative example like Titan, but Hikari is incredible. Every time I remember him saying, I'm just a scientist, it cracks me up. This is the charm of a true powerhouse. Subtly showing off is the deadliest. Countless viewers gasped at Hikari's final sword stroke and laughed with relieved admiration. Hikari, always humble, always saying, I'm just a scientist, was fiercer in battle than anyone. They'd already thought it outrageous that he'd killed Burden by overcharging him with light, but to almost sever the Dark Emperor's lifeline with a backhand strike? That was Alien Emperor territory, only a handful in the universe ranked above him. They watched the screen with renewed excitement, and then saw Hikari dissipate. Hope sank for a moment, but he hadn't died. He'd appeared in an earlier broadcast, helping Ace mop the floor with the Yabo aliens. Good. He was okay. Mebius Yuki Easter Egg Part 2 ends here. The clip ended, and many viewers were left wanting more. Zamusha and Hikari had fallen in battle, and Mebius had lost his transformation ability. How would the people of Earth defeat the Dark Emperor, Emperor Belial? In the Land of Light's primary universe, the Ultra Warriors were even more shocked. They understood the Dark Emperor's strength better than anyone. 3,000 years ago, the Emperor had taken up the sacred blade, awakened his true power, and dueled the Emperor for 300 rounds in a secluded chamber, leaving a scar and finally defeating him. None of them had expected Hikari to achieve something similar with his own strength. Even though Hikari ultimately failed to finish the opponent, what he did was nothing short of miraculous. Father of Ultra and the others sat stunned. So, when Hikari said he didn't have our kind of power, did he mean our power was weak? Jack joked, half in disbelief. Haha, he hides his strength well, Taro laughed. Masterful sword work. I might never see such a chance in my lifetime. Ace nodded with genuine admiration. I honestly feel I'm not as good as you all in combat. Ah Guang flushed. And that sword stroke can't be replicated. Zamusha's face popped into his mind, and Ah Guang sighed, quieter now. I'd rather never have learned that move if it meant Zamusha could still be alive. The others sobered. They respected the swordsman who had died protecting others. The dead are gone. Zamusha wouldn't want you to be like this, Mebius said, offering comfort and urging him to cheer up. Little Meng himself felt a twinge of sorrow, not just for Zamusha, but for the Guy's members, friends he would never see again. He bowed his head. At first, he'd been uncomfortable watching his darker past on screen, then embarrassed, but as he kept watching, all those emotions faded into nostalgia. 10,000 years had passed, yet seeing the faces and hearing the laughter of former teammates again stirred him deeply. He sighed softly and silently thanked Liu Bei for letting him revisit those memories. Then something unexpected happened. Mebius and Hikari exchanged surprised glances. Both had felt a call at once from another universe. They sensed vaguely that if they answered, they could travel to where the signal came from. Did you feel that? One of them said. Leo, Ace, and the others gathered. You can go to that kid's world now, they told them. But not yet. He said he'll call us when the time is right, someone added. The kid was Liu Bei, preparing the next video. Hikari nodded. While I can, I'll do some research. He tapped his wrist and pulled up the photon screen, fingers moving as he began to look into something. Honkai Impact Third's world. In the Honkai world, Kiana clutched a limited edition Mebius figurine, one of only 100 copies, and refused to put it down. More than its rarity, the figurine radiated a faint, powerful light, like a transformation device. Holding it felt like holding an Ultra's transformation item. She had a sudden, excited feeling that she might someday be able to transform into Mebius herself. Wouldn't that be an easy way to deal with Honkai beasts? The others watched with envy. Himeko teased, "You're not a kid anymore. Why are you still holding that thing?" But I just love him, the brave one of flame. It sounds so noble. Kiana stuck her tongue out at Himeko. The sky screen flickered again, now playing Mebius Yuki, Craver Easter Egg Part 331. Iharu, you scoundrel, what kind of third-rate fighting style is this? Scoun? Drell? Kiana mumbled, scratching her head. Why does this keep dropping hidden Ultraman phrases? Iharu, isn't he one of Mebius's teammates? Is he cursing Mebius? Scene 1 means there's more, right? Mei watched the sky with curiosity. Back in the land of light, the voice was not Liu Bei's narration, but Ihara Ryu's original voice. Mebius couldn't sit still. That's Ryu's voice? He blurted. Mebius brother, what's wrong? Who is Mr. Ryu scolding? Zeta leaned in. Mebius's feelings were complicated. He'd never forgotten Ryu's angry shout during their early days, when he wasn't yet a proper Ultra Warrior. The victory in that battle had felt hollow. He answered Zeta quietly, the next video should be my first battle on Earth. Your first battle, Zeta interrupted with excitement. Since seeing scenes of himself and Ace fighting side by side on Earth, he'd wanted to go and get some real experience. Hearing Mebius say Earth, he clenched his fists and grinned. Then I must study hard. Should I learn Earth languages first? What if they don't understand me? Maybe I should say nice to meet you for my first appearance. Cough. You should probably train more instead of worrying about greetings, Mebius said, a little flustered. He wasn't worried about his darker past being exposed so much as the example he set. As the instructor who interacted most with junior Ultras, Mebius was a role model in the land of light. Many young ones watched and imitated everything he did. If they learned about that battle, Master Taro and the others would likely scold him severely. P.S. Alas, I have my defense this afternoon. I hope the teachers won't make things difficult for me. 67. A fateful encounter. Why is he scolding that bastard again? And what does he mean by third-rate combat technique? Could this be another video of the Ultra Brothers? No, wait. That line was said by Ihara Ryu. Isn't he Mebius's teammate? First act, is this extra chapter split into 2 parts? As the new topic appeared, the chat filled with curiosity. After watching so many videos, viewers had learned to read the signs. Whenever words like damn, bastard, beast, or other coarse insults showed up, the clip usually featured the older Ultra generation, or some absurd, out-of-character scene. But what did this have to do with Yuki, with courage? Why was Ihara Ryu yelling? The video began. Ihara Ryu filled the frame, wearing a jacket with guys on the chest. He stared into the distance and shouted in a bright, earnest voice, 1. Don't go to school on an empty stomach. 2. Air out your bedding on a sunny day. 3. Watch for traffic when crossing the road. 4. Don't rely on the power of others. A young man's voice cut in. Ryu turned and saw a handsome young pilot. They grinned at each other and shouted together, 5. Play barefoot on the ground. Someone actually knows this. Mirai gushed in surprise. That's our superior's catchphrase. He said a friend taught it to him as a kid. It's supposed to be a proverb from an ultra warrior. Ryu smiled back. Yeah, I've heard of it too. Mirai's face lit up. How fascinating. These 5 proverbs. They sound so ordinary, but when I say them, I feel a rush of strength. I wonder which ultra warrior said them. Have they been in a countdown? Viewers from countless worlds followed along, intrigued. Maybe this was the start of a friendship between Ryu and Mirai. Then, in the next moment, the smiles on Mirai's face and on viewers' faces faded. Ryu laughed and brushed the guy's emblem on his chest. Ultra warriors? They're probably just legends now. This planet's on its own. We have to protect it ourselves. Who knows what the Ultras are doing? The chat exploded with amused disbelief. He's standing right next to you, they typed, as if pointing at the screen could change anything. The camera panned out beyond Earth. A monstrous beast tore through space toward the planet. Dinosaur. 5 fighter jets converged on it. Dinosaur confirmed, Ryu said. The guys were there to intercept and destroy it before it could reach the atmosphere. When a jet skimmed past Dinosaur, a flicker of fear passed through Ryu's chest, but he steeled himself. We have to protect this planet with our own hands, he ordered. All fighters, commence attack. Captain Serizawa answered with a terse command, and 5 jets fired a missile barrage at Dinosaur's back. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions burst and sparks flew from the beast, but it didn't slow or change course. It merely opened its mouth and released a thin white beam that sliced through 2 jets in an instant. How is that possible? Ryu muttered, eyes wide. There was no time to react. The remaining 3 jets swarmed in again. Dinosaur opened its mouth once more. A razor beam cleaved a jet clean in 2. Another was rocked by the blast, lost control, and smashed into the monster, erupting into a ball of fire. In a blink, only 1 guy's jet remained. The viewers across worlds gasped. Just the opening of its mouth had wiped out human fighters. Whoever this ultra warrior was, they'd face a severe challenge against a creature like Dinosaur. Inside that last jet sat Ihara Ryu and Captain Serizawa. Even though all their teammates were gone, they pressed on, keeping close to the enemy to find an opening. Dinosaur, perhaps annoyed, swung its head and fired a searing beam that sliced off the jet's left wing. The plane went out of control, black smoke streaming, alarms wailing. Captain, eject now. I'll pursue Dinosaur, Ryu shouted, panic and frustration twisting his voice. He couldn't understand how their team had been taken down so easily. Why had his friends died in an instant? Serizawa's face was hard. Ryu, guys, I'm counting on you. His hand flew for the yellow release handle. Before Ryu could react, Serizawa yanked him from the cockpit and set him free on a parachute. Ryu dangled below the chute, staring at the captain. The jet, crippled without a wing, couldn't possibly land safely. The monster was already descending toward the city below. Serizawa had a choice: both bail and watch the damaged craft plummet into populated streets, or stay and steer the jet into Dinosaur to stop it. He chose the latter. Don't underestimate your own life, he'd always said to his crew, and now he lived by it. Ryu, live on, he seemed to say. Ryu watched, helpless, as the smoking fighter barreled into Dinosaur. Boom, the impact lit the sky with fire. Air currents rolled outward, and everyone below craned their necks. Across the chat, viewers' eyes were full of respect. They didn't know Captain Sarazawa, but in their own worlds too, brave people sometimes made the same impossible choice. Not everyone could become an ultra warrior at the brink of death. Most simply vanished in the blaze, moths to the flame. Maybe this Yuki, this chapter on courage, was meant to honor people like that. Kiana gripped her Mebius doll, eyes fixed on the screen. She had expected this to be where Mebius would save the day. She didn't want to see more human lives sacrificed. But no Ultra came. The humans on the feed could only rely on themselves. When the smoke cleared, Dinosaur, unscathed, descended into the city. Buildings shattered as it crashed and roared. Streets were torn apart, flames erupted, homes gone in moments. People fled, screaming. Ryu hit the ground hard, the parachute flapping above him. He lay there, trembling with hatred, at the monster, at the situation, and at his own helplessness. How could he have been so weak? How quickly his whole team had been taken. In the land of light, Xiao Meng clenched his fists, eyes complicated. Now he understood why Ryu had scolded him before. Now he knew why Ryu had cried so bitterly. 68, cat with hands on hips, boom. The ground shook without stopping. Panicked crowds fled in every direction. Amid the chaos, one figure with resolute eyes pushed against the tide. "You guys, get out of here!" Hibino Mirai shouted to Teppei and the others behind him. Only then did the onlookers realize these people were the future Guys members, fates already intertwined. As Teppei and the others retreated, Mirai raised his left hand. A device like Hikari's night aura appeared on his wrist, the Mebius brace. He brushed his palm across it, and the infinity symbol pulsed to life. Mebius. Golden motes of warm light descended slowly into the city's center. From that sacred glow, a red and silver figure landed, perfectly steady, not a speck of dust stirred. The fleeing masses froze, staring at the giant in disbelief. Ihararu whispered, "Is that real?" Silence broke into ecstatic cheers. That's what Dad saw when he was a kid. An Ultra Warrior. It had been 25 years since the 9th Ultra Brother Itis left. Now an Ultra Warrior had returned to Earth. "Mebius," shouted the crowd. "The one who took a Leo kick head-on is finally here. Go, destroy that thing." The atmosphere, which had been crushed by loss after loss, suddenly brightened. The arrival of Mebius brought hope not only to those in the video, but to viewers across many worlds. An Ultra Warrior's coming promised a miracle. Yet a second later, Mebius's actions baffled everyone. He did not charge, did not take a battle stance. He slowly raised his hands and placed them firmly on his hips, hands on hips, standing there, watching Dinosaur. Roar. Dinosaur let out two threatening shrieks. Its twin tails smashed down, shattering buildings and gouging two deep pits in the ground. Mebius remained statue still, hands on hips as if posing for effect. Many viewers seethed. "Why are you just standing there? Attack! Use your Ultra Slap, Ultra Iron Mountain back. If you won't fight, at least call it a son of a..." In the space garrison, the Ultras fell silent watching the little Mebius pose. Taro clenched his fists until his knuckles cracked. Leo stretched his legs twice. Brother Man covered his eyes and shook his head. "Brother, heed my advice. You can't just put your hands on your hips like that," he seemed to plead. The room felt awkward. Then an untimely voice piped up. Zeta mimicked Mebius's posture, hands on hips and chest puffed out. "Brother Mebius, are you trying to intimidate the monster? It does make you look more imposing. I do it in training too, though I usually get knocked down afterward." "You misunderstand, Zeta. I actually..." Little Mebius cut himself off, covering his mouth. He wanted to explain, but instead beckoned Zeta to watch. Over in the Gaia universe, Gemu scratched his head in bewilderment. What on earth was his comrade doing? Standing with his hands on his hips? Was this his first time on Earth and he didn't know the protocol? Gemu remembered his own first transformation into Gaia. The commotion had been far more devastating than an earthquake, dust and shockwaves roaring across the land. He had charged straight at Gob for fear of running out of time to kill it. Many human host warriors from other worlds shared that impatience. An Ultra fighting on Earth could not afford to waste a second. On screen, Dinosaur sensed the threat and opened its hideous maw, preparing to fire an iron-sharp, searing, iron-cutting ray. "Huh?" Mebius, still standing hands on hips, was suddenly startled. He looked left and right, then his gaze landed on a tall building. Trained in space combat, his reflexes flicked into seeking cover. He leapt away and ducked behind the structure. Boom! An enormous explosion tore through the air as Dinosaur's long tongue struck, pulverizing the building into flying debris. Not far off, Ihara Ryu, who had just begun to feel hopeful, watched with a twitching mouth. Seeing Mebius rise from behind the ruined wall, he suppressed his anger. He muttered, "He actually used a building for cover." Ihara Ryu's rage value 50 cent. Mebius got up quietly, then felt something was wrong behind him. He turned and saw 3 tall buildings cleanly sliced in half, smooth cross-sections where they'd been severed. The falling parts crashed onto the already battered ground. Unaware of the full scale of the damage, Mebius turned back as if nothing had happened. Good thing I dodged, he thought. That would have been nasty. Dinosaur snarled and sprayed the area with countless high-heat projectiles. Mebius rolled instinctively, performing the essential ultra-side roll dodge with agility, slipping through the onslaught unscathed. But the projectiles tore through surrounding buildings, streets, and human facilities. Homes were reduced to rubble amid the tracer fire. After several rolls, Mebius sprang up, somersaulted high, and landed behind Dinosaur. Then, his red chest light started flashing. Out of power already? Only then did he remember that his active time on Earth was limited to about 3 minutes. Whoosh! The sound of slicing metal came from behind him. Mebius dodged again. Taking advantage of Dinosaur's backward swing, he spread his arms, right hand covering the Mebius brace on his left wrist. A golden aura streamed from his palms, and an immense infinity symbol formed, shrinking until it condensed between his hands. "Ha!" he cried out, crossed his arms, and a high-heat golden beam tore out, the Mebium ray. Boom, it hit Dinosaur squarely in the head. The monster howled in pain, its eyes went blank, and it collapsed, dead. The onlookers didn't cheer, they were puzzled. If one beam could take Dinosaur down, why hadn't he acted sooner? Why wait until the red light flashed and his energy was nearly gone? Had he been wary of the monster's abilities at first? From the exchanges of attack and dodge, Mebius had had many opportunities to strike. Had he used them, much of the city's destruction could have been avoided. On screen, Mebius stood amid the wreckage. He didn't fly away. He placed his hands on his hips again and held himself like that, proud. Citizens cheered at the monster's defeat. "We won! That's amazing!" The young Mebius puffed out his chest with pride. A warm sense of accomplishment swelled in him. One-hit kill. Instructor Mebius is incredible. He's completely unscathed. Yeah, on his first battle on Earth, young Ultra Warriors on the Land of Light applauded. For a moment, they almost forgot to question the oddity of the moment. Then, from the crowd, an untimely angry curse rang out. "You bastard! What kind of third-rate fighting technique is that?" P.S. Today's failure diary, the Mebius chapter probably has about a fifth of its content left. Next is a warrior whose name ends with S, a lighthearted one. Also, my defense committee teacher praised me. "You student, what kind of third-rate defense technique is this?" 69. The most important lesson. Hearing the scolding, Mebius turned his head in surprise, searching for the source. Everyone had been praising him. Why was someone suddenly berating him? He found out quickly. On the rooftop of a nearby tall building, Ihara Ryu stood with his voice raw, shouting at him. "Bakayaru, what kind of third-rate fighting technique is that? Look around you." The camera swept across the scene and revealed what Mebius had ignored during the fight, a vast expanse of ruins. This was the home people had depended on to survive. "Are you even an Ultra Warrior anymore?" Ryu's voice shook, his eyes bloodshot, tears welling up as he continued. "Nothing was protected at all. How could it turn out like this?" Ryu doubled over, helpless, weeping. Tears streamed down his face, drop by drop. He felt utterly useless. Why had he been so weak? He had sworn to protect Earth with human hands, yet his teammates had been sacrificed, and even his captain had given up the chance to escape. In the end, only he had survived. He had promised to avenge his comrades, but in the end, he still had to rely on an Ultraman. When Mebius had finally arrived, when he had thought the land could finally be defended, it had turned into rubble in an instant. "What did you even protect?" Ryu sobbed. Ryu knew he shouldn't blame Mebius. He was venting his own anger at his powerlessness. He couldn't protect his teammates. He couldn't protect his home. What had he protected at all? He had protected nothing. His words were less an accusation and more a self-reproach. Seeing Ryu like that, Mebius dropped his hands from his hips and watched in silence. For the first time, he realized he might have been wrong. The audience watching the footage understood, too, why the broadcast had shown Mebius's pre-battle scenes at the start and why Ryu's vow to protect the Earth with his own hands had been emphasized. In worlds from Honkai to EVA and beyond, people knew the feeling of helplessness when loved ones die and homes are torn apart. If a god descended from the sky, easily defeated the enemy, but left their home in ruins, many would curse aloud in the same way. No one who watched truly blamed Ryu. His scolding was an expression of grief and self-blame, not ingratitude toward Mebius. Without an Ultra Warrior, the city would have fared even worse. On the Land of Light, the once bustling crowd had fallen silent. Zeta, who had said he wanted to learn from Mebius, bowed his head, lost. He wasn't stupid. He knew this wasn't the time for talk. Mebius, however, gently patted Zeta on the shoulder. "Don't worry about my feelings, Zeta. Lift your head." Then Mebius stepped forward to the front of the space garrison and faced the ranks of young warriors below. There was no panic or embarrassment in his eyes. Instead, there was hope and conviction. "As your instructor, this is the most important lesson I will teach you," he began. "In this battle, my fighting style was completely wrong. The environment on Earth isn't like open space. Many things you see are not cover to shield you from attacks. They are beings you must protect, beings equal to you." He paused, letting his words sink in. "What difference is there between wantonly destroying the homes of living things, treating them like an arena to show off your skills, and being an invader?" A voice from the crowd called out, puzzled. "But if that's the case, won't we be constrained in battle? If we have to fight and also protect everything around us, won't that make things much harder?" Mebius smiled and met the junior's curious gazes. "Of course not," he answered, "because you are not alone. You will have companions, just like I did." He lifted his head, and for a moment, his gaze seemed to travel across the 3 million light-year breadth of the galaxy, imagining a small blue planet and the faces of companions who were gone. "I am called the Brave of Flame, but the flame in my heart was ignited by the emotions of my companions. Their voices made me stronger. Because everyone is there, I can fight. Because everyone is there, I will not lose." Even on Earth, Mebius had already begun to understand his mistake. He had long respected Ihara Ryu, not only as a friend, but as a wise teacher. Ryu's words had shaped Mebius's life as an Ultra. Seeing the video of Ryu's grief and regret made Mebius realize he had not fully grasped the depth of Ryu's pain until now. The young warriors listened, and something shifted in them as well. They began to see that humans and other living beings might matter to Ultramen in ways they hadn't appreciated before. Taro watched his disciple from behind with a look of pride. He had allowed Mebius to stay on Earth because he had been moved by the bond between Mebius and those companions, and that bond had not disappointed him. In the end, it was humanity's tiny glimmer of hope, the connection between humans and Ultraman that had defeated Alien Emperor. The Ultra Brothers shared that joy quietly. The Mebius who had once needed his brothers to protect him could now stand on his own. But Mebius's speech did more than teach the young on his home world. Unbeknownst to him, the address had been broadcast live. Audiences on other planets heard it as well. On a distant world, Ginga turned to Davi and nodded. "Ultraman and humans are indeed partners. If not for human help back then, I wouldn't have defeated Luciel either." "We must act quickly if we ever face battles on Earth," Davi agreed. "We cannot cause unnecessary losses." A sudden realization struck one of the new generation Ultramen who had been watching. He had spent most of his battles in the mountains and open fields. He rarely fought in cities. Maybe that was something he needed to change. 70. Eve of the Night Hyperion. Kiana stared at Mebius with a blank expression, a mix of emotions flickering in her eyes. "What's wrong?" Himeko prodded her forehead. "Nothing." Kiana shook her head as Mebius's words echoed in her mind. "The flame in my heart was lit by the feelings of my companions. Everyone's shouts made me stronger. Because everyone is here, I can fight. Because everyone is here, I won't lose." The giant screen in the sky changed again. Now playing, Mebius Yuki Easter Egg Arc 3, Act 2, Phoenix cries pierce the night, Yuki weaves bonds. Yuki weaves bonds. Kiana's eyes widened, and the phrase slipped out. Across countless worlds, audiences noticed the change. This is the fourth video in the Easter egg arc. Is this the first Ultra Warrior? Mebius's story is bigger than we thought. Isn't this the scene right after Hikari's divine sword strike? The footage continued. The timeline picked up after Hikari's ultimate sword blow. Darkness still enveloped Earth. Emperor Belial, like an immovable, malevolent presence, stood his ground. Alien Emperor stared at the wound on his leg in disbelief, the golden sword mark still gleaming. To the Dark Emperor, it was an outright insult. He clenched his fist, rage almost visible. On another front, seeing Hikari dissolve into light, Aihara Ryu, flying a fighter jet, howled in anguish. Captain Serizawa! His eyes were wet and his voice fractured. Again, he had watched his comrade sacrifice himself once more. Emperor Belial, damn you! Accompanied by Ryu's roar, the jet plowed toward Alien Emperor with unstoppable momentum. No one tugged the eject cord this time. Emperor Belial, furious, could no longer feign calm. He waved a hand. Boom! A ripple of invisible energy struck. The jet, and Ryu inside it, were torn apart and swallowed by flame. Ryu! Mirai's anguished cry echoed through the multiverse, sending shivers through millions of viewers. Aihara Ryu died in battle? Watching your mentor and your friend die right in front of you, how could anyone survive that? Kiana gripped her Mebius doll tightly. For some reason, seeing the scene pinched at her with sadness and fear. This wasn't her memory. Why did she feel so afraid? In the Marvel Universe, Captain Steve Rogers bowed his head. What a shame. Tony remembered the time he took the nuke himself, planning never to come back. He'd been luckier than Ryu. He'd fallen back to Earth from the wormhole last second and been saved by the Hulk. Ordinary humans like Ryu deserved respect. Tony raised his glass and toasted the fallen warrior from afar. Even before the Hikari sword chapter, many viewers admired Aihara Ryu's selflessness. As a human, to reach that level of sacrifice was remarkable. Watching his past had deepened their understanding. He wasn't just an impulsive hothead. The sorrow he carried rivaled anyone's. No one had expected such a heartbreaking warrior to be cut down so suddenly. A cold wind whipped Emperor Belial's cape. He turned slowly to face the remaining Guy's members. You actually killed the most important person to me. Mirai's eyes flooded with tears. In such a short time, he had lost 3 close friends, Zamusha, Hikari, Ryu. Mirai, I'm still alive. Then a scene no one expected flashed on screen. Aihara Ryu's voice sounded from above. Mirai's disbelief was palpable. Alien Emperor 2 spun around, surprised and uncertain. From beyond the sky, a golden column of light descended. The Dark Emperor raised a hand instinctively to shield his eyes. In that brilliant glow, a familiar figure slowly floated downward. It was Hikari. Ultraman Hikari! Ah, Guang isn't dead. You scared me to death. Could he have merged with Aihara Ryu? Oh my god, they're both alive. For a moment, grief turned to joy across the audience. Ryu's voice, laced with a smile, said, How could I die so easily? Captain Serizawa entrusted both Earth and you to me. A light blade released from the night aura in his hand. Ryu, or rather Hikari, raised his right hand and slashed toward Alien Emperor. Everyone watching clenched their fists. By hot-blooded manga convention, a reborn Ryu merged with Hikari would mean a sudden surge of unstoppable power. Surely they would beat the enemy. The smiles froze. Ryu charged at Alien Emperor, swung twice, and was blasted away by a massive energy wave from the Dark Emperor before he could finish. He staggered, and his red light began to flicker. Within seconds, the viewers were confused. After seeing Hikari's original swordsmanship, everyone had built an image of a master swordsman. But this Aihara Ryu, despite holding a max-level account, didn't know how to use it. His fighting style had become brash and reckless. Observers realized that an Ultraman choosing a human host depended on compatibility, and Aihara Ryu simply wasn't suited to Hikari's swordsmanship. Still, not everyone on the screen was an outside critic. Mirai, emotions swinging between hope and dread, couldn't stand by and watch his friends die again. His body turned to light and he rushed toward the battlefield. Emperor looked up in surprise and saw Mebius, supposedly powerless, appear again, supporting Hikari. You still have the strength to resist, even after defeating the 4 heavenly kings who came for you. Alien Emperor remained where he stood, raising his right hand. Crackle. The thunderclouds responded to his command. Blood-red energy coiled around his fingertips as though preparing a fatal blow. The whole earth trembled beneath the terrifying fluctuation. "But it's all over," the Dark Emperor bellowed, and a dark red energy tore from his hand. For a moment, the world seemed dragged into a blood-red abyss. A single impact could not snuff out all the light in the world, but it was the most immediate, crushing thing anyone could perceive. Visually, Emperor Belial's oppressive presence eclipsed every enemy that had come before. The destructive beam struck Mebius directly, true Risolium ray, capable of directly decomposing Ultramen, but ineffective against Ultra Warriors with human hosts. Ah! Dark fissures spread across Mebius's body as he screamed. Hikari, who wasn't directly struck, reached to help, but a casually thrown black flame ball from Emperor Belial engulfed him and knocked him to the ground. "Mirai!" Among the Guise members, cries of heartbreak filled the air. Mebius was drowned in the dark, blood-colored tide, and then he dissipated. P.S. Oh no, I got infected by my roommate. Recurrence. 71. Phoenix Warrior, Mebius has dissipated. I thought Mirai would transform again and defeat the Dark Emperor with Hikari. Sigh. This sense of despair is pouring out from the screen. Watching Mebius turn to ash in agony, many viewers lowered their eyes, unable to continue. They knew the real Mebius should still be alive. He had appeared to save Minami Yuko before. But seeing this scene, those who had come to love him could not calm themselves. Land of Light. Will I face enemies this strong when I go to Earth someday? Zeta muttered, staring at the Dark Emperor's silhouette. Slap. Zero smacked him on the back of the head and snapped. What are you afraid of? Didn't you hear Mebius earlier? You'll have Guise partners too. If it really came to that, he'd go save them himself. Zero left the rest unsaid, but when he looked up, he caught Mebius's half-smile and realized his uncle had seen right through him. He flushed and cleared his throat. Zero's right. Mebius smiled. Tiga World. Mebius has dissipated. Alien Emperor's beam can disintegrate Ultras. This time. Hori's expression was grim. Hikari's red light has been flickering non-stop. The darkest hour. The TPC members sighed. The whole Earth cloaked in darkness. The Ultra Warrior defeated. If their world suffered this, what could they do? Mebius hasn't lost yet. Daigo's voice cut through their despair. For his partners, for Earth, he will never give up. He's an Ultra Warrior. He clenched his fists. A miracle will happen. Father of Ultra, regret it. The future of Earth, the planet you called irreplaceable, is now finally cut off. In the cold wind, Alien Emperor scanned the survivors with lifeless eyes. Ryu, are you all right? The Guise members who had rushed out of Phoenix Nest didn't care if he attacked them again. They helped the disintegrated Ryu up from the ruins. Mirai, where's Mirai? Mirai. Teppei couldn't accept that Mebius had dissipated. He kept insisting he had only been disintegrated before, not gone. Still, no matter how he called, there was no sign of Mirai. Aihara Ryu stared blankly at nothing. Again, I couldn't protect anything. Once more he had watched a friend die in front of him. Even Mirai is lost, George said through gritted teeth, perhaps meaning both Mirai and Mebius. It's over, Konomi muttered, resigned. Marina looked up at the sunless sky, tears in her eyes. Even Earth, even the sun. Then a voice echoed from a distance that made everyone freeze. Do you really think so? Countless viewers. That voice? Ace. You can still hear it. The voice of partners who believe in victory and fight by your side, even if they're not with you now. Outside the Earth, in the solar system, a familiar figure appeared. Ace. And not just him. The Ultra Brothers who had protected Earth and fought alongside Mebius and humanity were there too. Jack, Seven, Ultraman, Taro, Idis, Leo, Astra. Ace had called for another team battle. Go save our brother. As long as the bonds you've built remain, you will protect the Earth. At Ace's call, the Ultra Brothers in space unleashed their ultimate beams. Dazzling shafts of multicolored light struck the sun, gradually undoing the darkness that had devoured its light. The black mist began to recede. The Guise members on the ground found renewed strength and stood up. At the same moment, a night aura flared on Ryu's wrist. A voice spoke from within it. Please lend me a hand for our final battle. Mirai, isn't this Mirai? Ryu laughed through his relief. While the Dark Emperor lifted his head toward the Ultra Brothers, Ryu activated the night aura and reached out his hand. The four Guise members followed, raising their hands and placing them together. Their resolve reached the one who had dissipated. A golden figure quietly coalesced beside the five, standing shoulder to shoulder with them. He smiled at his partners, slowly extended his hand, and joined theirs. It was Hibino Mirai. From their joined hands rose a symbol like a bond, an infinite Thi sign. Three-colored light, gold for friendship, red for Mebius, and blue for Hikari, twined and merged into something brighter, enveloping the six. Inside Phoenix Nest, Captain Sakomizu, smeared with mud and dust, watched with eyes shining more brilliantly than they'd ever been. He grinned and shouted, "Guy Sally, go! Gig!" The six answered the captain and struck a single pose, the transformation pose of Mebius. All six hands shot upward. Mebius! Warm light rained down. Countless motes gathered and swirled like a reborn phoenix. Dazzling, scorching flames leapt into the sky as if a sun had risen in the human world. Even Alien Emperor instinctively covered his eyes. He called himself the Dark Emperor, but the light formed by bonds was too blinding even for him. From that sacred golden blaze, a new form emerged. On his left hand glowed the Mebius aura. On his right wrist sat the Night aura. Phoenix flames traced the contours of his armor. Mebius Phoenix Brave. In the vast darkness, thunder rolled as if the very night itself trembled before this Phoenix warrior. "What a powerful existence," someone breathed. "Just looking at him, I can feel infinite power. Even a god would look like an ant beside him." Across worlds, countless viewers were stunned by Mebius's new form. Even on the Land of Light, many Ultras were speechless. This was the first time they had seen Mebius like this. They had never imagined the human Ultra bond could create anything so magnificent. Remembering what Mebius had said before, many younger Ultras swelled with hope. In the Kingdom universe, Brother Tazi was nearly dumbfounded. How could an Ultraman create a new form from nothing? Then he exhaled in relief. Fortunately, Mebius's new form needed human help to be born. After 10,000 years, the so-called Phoenix Brave had become more legend than reality, but now that legend had returned. 72. Phoenix Cry. "Didn't I tell you, an Ultra Warrior can't win?" Alien Emperor raised his hand and unleashed the Razalim Ray. The beam tore at the air like a roar. But Mebius, standing in his Phoenix Brave form, did not flinch. He let the attack strike his chest. Ripples ran outward as the Razalim Ray was somehow reflected back, slamming into Alien Emperor and badly wounding his right hand. "How is this possible?" Emperor clutched his damaged arm in disbelief. "Don't you understand, Alien Emperor?" came a calm voice from within Mebius. "I'm not fighting alone." Inside the giant's body, 6 members of Guys stood shoulder to shoulder, staring at Alien Emperor with grim resolve. Alien Emperor sneered toward the light. "Oh, children of the Land of Light, fearless of darkness, unafraid of a silent, perfect world?" Above him, the Ultra Brothers aimed their beams to pierce the gloom. At that moment, a huge, advanced instrument descended from the sky and settled horizontally between Mebius and Alien Emperor, the Spatium Amplifier, humanity's most formidable piece of black technology, built to answer the hearts of Ultra Warriors. "All units, fire the Mebium Night Ray at the Spatium Amplifier," Captain Sakomizu ordered from the Phoenix Nest. Mebius moved the instant the order left Sakomizu's lips. The audience stared, confused. Emperor had not shifted a single step since he first arrived at the nest, through his fights with Zamusha and Hikari. He had simply planted himself and fought from that spot. Even now, a massive cannon barrel was being leveled at his face. He still stood there, unbowed. Mebius first struck the pose for the Mebium Ray, then the Night Ray. Blinding tricolored light erupted from his hands, and amplified by the Spatium Amplifier, it spiraled straight at Alien Emperor, Mebium Night Ray. Emperor did not dodge. Pride would not have him retreat before the light. The beams crashed over him like 1,000 lacerations. He groaned in pain, then stopped, raising a wounded hand as he stared into the light with a mixture of fury and something like awe. "Sakomizu," a calm, authoritative voice said into the captain's ear. Sakomizu turned slowly, surprise and joy lighting his features, just as it had long ago on Pluto. That voice belonged to the being he had missed all these years. "Let's go together," the voice said gently. "I need your strength now." Sakomizu nodded and stepped into the light with a small, relieved smile. In the nest, a dazzling 8-pointed star burst forth, and from its pure center a divine figure ascended. The star medal on his chest announced him, Zafi. After many years, he had come back to Sakomizu's side. The M87 ray cut through the remaining darkness and struck Alien Emperor. Colored streams of light battered him, tearing into his body and revealing golden scars beneath the black plating. I am the Dark Emperor, Emperor spat, defiant even as his form cracked. How can I be defeated by a clan from the Land of Light? Mebius and Zafi exchanged a steady look. Mebius raised his hands high, and a scorching red phoenix roared into being. The final blow, Mebium Phoenix. The attack's flame energy overpowered everything. Even the spatium amplifier couldn't withstand it and shattered under the onslaught. Alien Emperor's supposedly indestructible body melted like ice beneath the inferno. The black shell was pierced and shattered with a tremendous crash. Ugh, Emperor staggered, barely able to remain standing. He did not flee. He bent over and whispered in disbelief, "Why? Why should I be defeated by an Ultra Warrior?" Time seemed to slow. He watched the fragments of the spatium amplifier glitter in the dark, and realization broke over him. I did not lose to the Ultra Warriors, he murmured. I lost to the tiny light of humanity, to the bond between human and Ultra. Golden light seeped from his wounds. The dark exterior he'd worn to hide the light within began to give way. That very light he had despised, yet secretly yearned for, poured out of him. Light! I will become light, he breathed. Alien Emperor's head lifted, and he dissolved into a column of golden radiance, turning to light and departing. As he died, the oppressive gloom that had blanketed Earth lifted. The Ultra Brothers dispelled the darkness from the sky, and for the first time in ages, sunlight bathed the planet again. The viewers exhaled a long, collective sigh of relief. Emperor's presence had been crushing even through a screen. It had left everyone breathless. Thankfully, this Dark Emperor had remained rooted in place and had been defeated by Mebius and Zafi together. Some viewers, though, felt a sudden jolt of curiosity. Among the Ultra Brothers, it had been only Zafi who descended to Earth. Why did the cameras cut to him at Emperor's end? The scene shifted. The Guise members gathered on the ground. Zafi and Hikari stood side by side, bidding farewell, Zafi to Captain Sakomizu, Hikari to Aihara Ryu. The audience thought the broadcast would end there, but Mirai Hibino stepped forward and pressed a small flame charm into Sakomizu's hand. The final battle is over, Mirai said, voice tight. I have a new mission now. I will carry the things this planet's people have built together back to the warriors of the Land of Light. Those words made the meaning clear to everyone. Mirai, Mebius, would be returning home. The fight had ended, and now there would be partings. Viewers who had followed him felt the pang of a child leaving home. Tears came unbidden to many faces. One by one, Mirai's comrades spoke through their own tears. Cheer up, friend. Do well. It was so good to meet you. I'll always be cheering for you. George held himself back but managed to smile as he encouraged him. Finally, the camera lingered on Aihara Ryu. Emotions flickered across his face before a relieved smile settled there. Go, he said, steady. Mirai's tears fell freely now as he forced the words out. Goodbye. Thank you, everyone, for everything. Enveloped in golden light, Mebius rose. Even as an Ultra Warrior, his heaving chest made clear that he was crying. He scanned their faces and imprinted each one in his memory. With a gentle nod to his friends, he soared upward. Aihara Ryu, long holding his composure, couldn't suppress his feelings any longer. He ran forward and shouted at the departing figure with all the breath in his lungs, Mirai, thank you! The image froze on Aihara's tearful, joyful smile. Today's Flop Diary. The Mebius arc draws to a temporary close. I'm still fuzzy from being sick, so I don't want to write anything too dark next. Expect a lighter character to show up soon. No sarcasm. I want to ease the melancholy that closed this arc. And honestly, I dislike the idea of a fixed lifespan theory. What stayed with me most about Mebius was companionship and friendship. Even if I don't like certain tropes, they still exist in the story. 73. Amnesiac Max, Ryu, Captain Ikaruga, Teppei, George, Marina, Konomi. In the space garrison, Mebius smiled and murmured the names of his old comrades. Hearing their voices again, seeing their faces on a little screen, it felt right. For a moment he forgot about the shadowed patch in his own past. Ryu's roar, the battles they had fought together against the Dark Emperor, the moments of triumph and loss, all of it tugged at the memories locked inside him. These were scenes from his life with his friends on Earth. Ultramen treasured their bonds with humans, but the difference in lifespans was vast, hundreds, perhaps thousands of times. Once separated by that gulf, farewells could become forever. A small ball of light suddenly appeared in Mebius's hand. It was warm, and something inside it unfurled. A gun, unusually small for an Ultra Warrior. It was a weapon that had traveled 3 million light years. Not long before, a gift from beyond the galaxy had drifted to the Land of Light, sent via Earth's most advanced meteor technology of the time. Mebius held that gift now, the Trinega gun he had used on Earth. The gun carried memories of his Guy's teammates. Its body had been modified to store their voices. Gentle, rough, cute, steady, weathered, each voice full-bodied and unmistakable. Mirai, the one listening to this, has to be you, right? Without you, the Guy's team wouldn't be complete. Mirai, I'm Marina. How are things in the Land of Light? I've already won 4 world championships. Pretty awesome, huh? Yo, Mirai, long time no see. I'm George, have you missed me? Mirai, I'm Konomi. Are you studying hard in the Land of Light? Oh, right, I'm already a certified kindergarten teacher. I'm Teppei, Mirai. I finished my 10th surgery a few days ago. Captain, it's your turn. Ahem, Mirai, the flame amulet you gave me, I'm still keeping it safe. No matter where you are now, Earth will always welcome you. Guys will always be your home. Guys, Sally, go! They smiled through the speakers, traded news and teasing, and poured out their longing. Mebius remembered his first shock when he played the recording and how he had started to cry. The more he listened, the clearer the truth became. The recordings were badly distorted, intermittent, blurred. Even with Earth's best meteor technology to send that gun to the Land of Light, the journey across the starry seas would take tens of thousands of years. After such time, his companions back on Earth would have already reached the ends of their lives. Those recent events the voices described were not recent at all. They were tens of thousands of years old. Mebius wiped at his eyes and forced himself to smile. Even if they were separated by worlds and ages, their hearts had always been connected. Even the most distant separation, the longest span of years, could not change the feelings they had for each other. Mebius-Nissan, are you all right? Zeta asked, stepping closer with concern. Mebius shook his head and hid his sadness again. He saw confusion on Zeta's face. The younger Ultra could not fully understand his senior's grief. Then Mebius clapped a hand on Zeta's shoulder and smiled, trying to steer the moment lighter. If you ever get the chance to go to Earth for training, he said, cherish that time, Zeta. You'll meet some very reliable friends there. Cherish friends, Zeta repeated slowly. Yes, I'll remember, Mebius-Nissan. He nodded with firm resolve and left Mebius to himself. After Zeta had gone, Mebius breathed a soft, private farewell. No one would call him Mirai anymore. From this point on, they would know him only as Mebius. Yet even as he accepted that, something else appeared before his eyes. A starry sky, and within it, a white-haired girl holding a tiny doll shaped like him. Her expression went from surprise to bright determination as she waved the doll. Hello there, brave of flame Mebius, or rather Mirai, she said as memory bubbles played behind her white hair. They were scenes from Kiana's life with her own companions. Mebius stared at her in the bubbles, feeling 1,000 things at once. Then he focused, poured a warm crimson light into the doll, and smiled. I hope this phoenix fire of courage helps you in the future and protects the people you want to protect, he told her. Hyperion. Kiana? Kiana? Himeko's voice cut through. Hey, wake up. What are you spacing out for? Kiana blinked and looked at the Mebius doll in her hand. In that world, only she could see an endless, figure-8-shaped flame burning inside it, warm and immensely powerful. She murmured, I guess I've become a human host. Himeko shook her gently back to the present. Mebius Courage Easter egg arc ends here. This chapter is dedicated to those brave, lovely, never-retreating people with the highest respect. Next, something lighter. The next compilation video will play soon. The fastest and strongest, rushing into the cafeteria. The fastest and strongest, rushing into the cafeteria. The phrase set off a frenzy across worlds. Viewers, still recovering from the emotion of the Mebius arc, began to speculate and analyze. The title Fastest and Strongest must mean this Ultra is extremely powerful, fastest in speed and strongest in power. Or it could be sarcasm. What does the rushing into the cafeteria part even mean? Does it mean he's the fastest at grabbing food in the Land of Light cafeteria? Do Ultramen even need to eat? I've never seen them open their mouths. No, maybe rushing into the cafeteria means his operations are chaotic and funny. That makes sense, like how we Earthlings play games. All kinds of theories surfaced. The audience's sorrow gave way to excitement. On the Land of Light, Jano grinned at his friend. The fastest and strongest, Max, isn't that you? Libet nodded. Yeah, it does make you come to mind. Max flushed, shaking his head. Please don't flatter me. No, it's more of a curse than praise. Up close, the older Max knew himself. He wasn't the fastest or the strongest among Ultramen. Watching these compilation videos long enough taught him patterns. Characters who appeared to be harmless often had hidden histories. People like Officer Hikari truly had no jokes and could only modestly brag. Mid-tier ultras like Jano, Libut, the Ultra Guard, they were serviceable but not standout. The rest who showed up in these segments almost always had some embarrassing past. Look at Captain Zoffi. He's a regular joke target, Max muttered. He's got so much history that everyone laughs when he shows up. He's perfect for this kind of title. A young Ultra student called Boy piped up confidently. I think it's Zoffi. People usually call him the strongest among the Ultra brothers. Max only grew more amused. He patted Boy's head and agreed. I'm just an ordinary civil servant on the Land of Light. How could I be the fastest and strongest? We're all administrative staff, not fighters. He gestured toward others. Senior 7 is only a monster capsule researcher. Officer Hikari is a scientist. I'm just a planetary civilization observer. Not exactly battle material. Just then, a familiar narration brought everyone back to attention. 2 lines of text scrolled up on the screen. The fastest and strongest, rushing into the cafeteria. The Ultra Warrior who forgot how to transform. Max? Max? X, Zero, and the other Ultramen who knew him were stunned. Max had forgotten how to transform. When did that happen? Today's diary of a street sweeper. I want to see who's been picking on old Max. Old me. Ancient memories are starting to attack me. Ancient memories are starting to attack me. It's Max! Yes! Land of Light. Just as the assembled Ultra Warriors fell into stunned silence, a cheerful, excited shout cut through the confusion and drew every eye. On the plaza, a little boy threw up his hands and shouted, Max, Jeno, Libut, I told you, it's really Max. Wait, why is it Max? Shouldn't it be Captain Zoffi? Zoffi stared, baffled by the boy's disappointed tone and oddly pleased smile. Max, who had been smiling, stiffened when he read the words on the screen. His color timer nearly flashed red. He stood dazed. Max? No, I must be imagining things. Let me look again. He rubbed his eyes and looked back at the screen. The title glared up at him. The Ultra Warrior who forgot how to transform. Forgot how to transform. Max frowned. When did I ever forget how to transform? He instinctively lowered his head and touched the horn ornament. Suddenly a shiver ran through him, a flicker of recognition and strangeness at once. Unsure, he touched the horn again. The blue shining core threw off a faint halo. With a metallic clink, the Maxium sword slid out of his head ornament and fell to the ground. Max, what are you doing? Gino and Libut called, alarmed. What's wrong? Is something happening? Others asked. Geno and Libut had seen him draw his weapon and feared something was wrong. Max crouched, picked up the Maxium sword and casually swung it twice. Yes, this is it. This is the feeling, he muttered. I remember. Forgetting how to transform. Amnesia. A long-buried memory finally surfaced. He sheathed the sword and stared at his 2 friends with eyes full of complicated emotions, embarrassment, sorrow, awkwardness, and a hint of relief. Gino and Libut looked between themselves, confirming what they saw. For the sake of our friendship, please laugh a little quieter later, Max said suddenly. Geno and Libut blinked. What did you say? What do you mean? Laugh quieter? Under the expectant, curious gaze of countless viewers, the video began to play. The scene shifted to Earth. A housewife hummed to herself as she did chores. She opened the refrigerator, froze, and shut the door again. Oh, what was I going to do? She muttered. Her daughter, eating nearby, tossed out, You must be getting old. You're so rude. That's not it at all, the woman protested, then opened the fridge again. The camera cut. The same woman now faced an interviewer and looked distraught. Things have been really bad lately. To prevent forgetting things, I take notes, but then I forget where I put the notebook. Other people followed on screen, offering similar anecdotes. Actually, me too. My child was in bed, but I forgot where he was. I found myself singing to a doll. So my puppy forgetting how to shake hands is the same thing? The audience grew uneasy. These people, and the animals and children around them, were experiencing sudden memory lapses. What did this have to do with the Ultras? The camera moved to a newsroom. The male anchor began, "Next are the exchange rates," and then suddenly stopped and asked the female anchor beside him in a low voice, "How do you pronounce this character again?" "Goo," she replied. "Goo." He stared at the script as if seeing the character for the first time. "Next are the exchange rates and stock market trends," she reminded him. He awkwardly smiled. "Oh, right, I'll move on." He glanced back at the script and immediately froze. What was this again? The female anchor, helpless but live on air, took the script and tried to continue. Her mouth moved and then fell silent. The male anchor turned to the camera with an awkward smile. "Then we'll see you next time." Eerie music swelled. The camera returned to the woman and her daughter from the opening scene. The mother walked slowly toward her child. "What's your name again?" she asked, puzzled. Goosebumps rippled through the audience. Anchors forgetting how to read? A mother forgetting her daughter's name? The footage felt like something out of a horror film. Back in the Dash team base, Eli's emotionless voice reported, "I've compiled a week's worth of data and consulted a physician. The distribution of reported amnesia cases is shown on the map." A regional map filled the large screen, marked with case numbers over time. "Also, when we traced the source of the three phenomena," Eli said, and three bright red dots appeared on the map. "Isn't that where the meteorites fell?" Mizuki exclaimed, "Yes, they fell a month ago. But didn't we analyze them? They showed no abnormalities. What if?" The video cut to the three meteorites streaking down from space and crashing into the city. The connection snapped into place for the audience. The Ultra Warriors leaned in. Could whatever hit Earth have caused this memory loss? Could it have affected Max as well? The scene shifted to Titan Base. Kaido Higashi, Max's human host, spoke over a field detector as he scanned the riverside. "This is Kaido. No harmful radio waves detected. But, someone asked. "It's odd," Kaido replied. "It's not that I can't find anything. It's like the radio waves are being absorbed." As he spoke, three white arcs of light traced the river surface like electric currents and vanished. The audience speculated wildly. Some sort of beast? Alien? River spirit? Kaido's right eyelid began to twitch uncontrollably. An omen, some would later joke. He seemed to sense something. The water erupted, waves slamming against the bank, and a gigantic creature rose up. It looked like a colossal sea urchin with long tentacles trailing in the water, a huge cat-like eye set in its center, and on its back, impossibly, a fluffy cat tail. A scrolling caption named it Cosmic Cat, Maiku. Kaido spun to face the creature. He bolted upright, hand on his max spark, ready to transform, only then he froze. He stared blankly at the transformation device in his palm, scratched his head, and whispered to himself, "Transform. How do I transform again?" Confusion rippled through the audience, then exploded into laughter. Laughter after laughter filled the plaza and the viewing feeds. They laughed until it sounded like a roar. He actually forgot how to transform. I'm dying of laughter. How can an Ultra Warrior forget how to transform? No wonder his right eyelid was twitching earlier. He was already affected. Ultramen are living beings too. Amnesia happens. Ha ha! This is too good. When Kaido Higashi stood on the riverbank completely bewildered, unable to remember how to transform, the viewers all lost it. At first they thought they were watching some weird horror flick, then realized the human host had amnesia. Not about his life, just about how to transform. The comedy was off the charts. Even the Ultras on the Land of Light were hysterical. Jano and Labute finally understood what Max had meant when he'd had that black line across his face. Max had told them to laugh more quietly. So that was it all along. Father and mother of Ultra couldn't keep from chuckling. Zoffy was positively delighted. If Max's debut review started like this, the rest would be explosive. Maybe that would finally shake off the title of First Ultraman to Socially Die. With Max, fastest, strongest, who would dare claim that now? A world in which only Max gets hurt had just been born. Just as the audience laughed, eager to see how Kaido would finally transform, the scene cut. They were at the Dash Team Command Center. The team had detected the monster Maiku's appearance, and Captain Hijikata Shigeru barked the orders. All right, Dash, scramble. Mizuki in Dash 1, Koba in Dash 2, Shion and I in the Dash Air Mobile Mothership. Understood. Rousing music swelled as the teams moved quickly and efficiently, boarding cockpits, engines coming online, the whole armada ready to go. For a beat, the viewers thought humanity would be the MVP, and the monster would be beaten by the defense team. Then, the music cut off. The camera zoomed in on the team. Captain Hijikata's hand hovered in midair. His face was a picture of utter confusion. Huh? Mizuki stared at the fighter's control interface, baffled, then looked at the display. How do you operate this again? On the river, Kaido stared at his own screen, equally lost. How do I transform? Ellie in the command center tilted her head, baffled herself. Did everyone just forget? Silence. Everyone watching froze, then erupted into laughter. They must be doing a sketch. Everyone had amnesia. The human host couldn't transform, and the Dash members couldn't even fly their jets. Comedy gold. Shion, I'm not kidding. How do you operate this again? Inside the cockpit, Koba frantically slapped his helmet. Okay, calm down, calm down. He took a breath, squinted at the panel. If I remember right, it's like this. He jabbed a red button. Had he remembered? The viewers watched curiously. Then, nothing. The fighter didn't lift. Instead, a missile launched from its top launcher. It tore across the runway, trailed flame, careened wildly, and then exploded. Boom! The gate of the Dash base by the river was blown to smithereens. Fire and black smoke shot up. The rest of the team gaped at the blaze. Shion even started to sing nervously, "It's broken, it's broken." Koba put on a wry face. "No, I didn't mean to." "Hey, you saw him. He broke it," someone shouted. Mizuki, panicking, yelled, "Ellie, if we can't get these jets airborne, load Dash 1 into the mothership." Understood. Ellie, unaffected, processed the command, and the jet was successfully loaded into the air-mobile mothership. The triumphant music returned. Viewers relaxed, thinking things were back on track. Captain Hijikata, still a bit dazed, piloted the mothership under Ellie's direction. Then, the music halted again. Countless viewers leaned closer in disbelief. The mothership, immediately after takeoff, began to spin in place, like a top, wildly fast. The centrifugal force knocked the captain unconscious in his cockpit. He slumped into a baby-like sleep. Shion clung to a handrail in the rear, terrified of being flung out. "What's happening?" he shouted. The viewers howled. Look at his face, distorted from being tossed around. Shion's laughing and crying at once. If it had actually flown off course, they'd be the dead ace pilots. If I were Ellie, my CPU would be smoking. Ellie's voltage spiked. She stood and asked, utterly perplexed, "Captain, what is wrong with all of you?" The automatic doors whooshed open as the captain and his two teammates tumbled back in, dazed and wobbling. "That's what we're asking," the captain mumbled, rubbing his head, feeling like the room was full of doubles. He staggered, lost his footing, and fell into Shion behind him. Bang! The impact sent Shion reeling into the launch bay. Whoosh! Then back into the mothership, accompanied by a pitiful, "Help me." The mothership started spinning again. Viewers alternated between pity and laughter. This whole team was a walking disaster. The camera finally returned to Kaido Higashi. Everyone in every world watched, pupils wide. He had taken off his left sock and shoe. With a dramatic flick, the sock flew away. He balanced on one foot, slapped the max spark against the sole of his bare foot with a solemn pat, and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Transform! Transform! Transform!" The reaction was instantaneous. An unprecedented wave of laughter rolled through every world. This was peak comedy. All the previous darkly funny histories of other Ultra Warriors were eclipsed by this single image. He actually stuck the transformation device to the bottom of his foot. What a weird way to transform. I'm dying. This is the funniest thing ever. People laughed until their faces turned red, tears streaming, breathless. They'd thought the Dash team were chaotic enough. Who knew Kaido could top them all? Watching Kaido, the audience leaned in, eager to see what ridiculous method he'd use to finally become Max. Today's Flop Diary. First, old Max fans, don't worry. If you've read this far, you've seen I haven't resorted to cruel mockery. Every protagonist has their shining moments. Even comedic scenes don't need demeaning language. Not to pat myself on the back, right? Second, I'm exhausted. Bookstore traffic has tanked. What happened? Why is this happening? 76. Fastest and strongest, rush into the cafeteria. Amid the roar of laughter and the curious gazes of countless viewers, the scene cut to Koba, the team member who had fired the missile that blasted open the base gate. He was drenched in sweat, as if he'd just made a terrible decision. His index finger trembled as he slowly pressed a button. Boom! The fighter jet's engine screamed to life, and a dazzling blue-white flame licked out of the nozzles. Success! He'd managed to start it. Before Koba could even breathe a sigh of relief, Dash 2 lurched forward with terrifying speed. The sudden acceleration slammed him back into his seat, his face contorted from the force. The audience and Ellie blinked, baffled by his behavior. What was this genius up to? Ah! Koba, frantically trying to wrestle the jet under control, watched a gigantic figure fill his windshield, the cat demon Maiko. His panic snapped into manic laughter. Confidently, he barked, "Yosh! Missile launch!" and yanked a yellow control stick. Did he hit the target? Could this wild card be the MVP? That hope evaporated the next instant. Everyone's pupils shrank as the cockpit canopy suddenly popped open. Under the stunned gaze of millions, Koba pulled the ejection lever. He was getting out. Even weirder, the camera zoomed in for a close-up. He wore a smug grin, flashed a thumbs up to the viewers, and shouted, "Dash!" Then he plunged straight into the sea, sending up a geyser of spray. Unbelievable. He survived a hundreds of meters drop into the water without a scratch. No time to laugh before something even more absurd happened. Dash 2, now out of control, slammed into Maiko and lodged itself in her head. Meow ah! Maiko's eyes bulged and she collapsed. People across worlds watched the footage in stunned silence before cracking up all over again. Who would have imagined that the only thing to land on Maiko would be a kamikaze jet piloted by this genius? The Dash team sure was full of surprises. But the audience wanted to know what the protagonist, Max, was doing. Was he still whacking his foot with the transformation device? The camera cut back to Kaido Higashi. After hitting his foot repeatedly, he finally froze with a sudden realization. The viewers held their breath. "Then how about this?" Kaido shouted, and with a crisp sound, he pressed the Max Spark to his forehead. Nothing happened. Crows seemed to caw in the air. Meow. Back at the crash site, Maiko, with the jet stuck in her head, groaned and used a tentacle to pull it free with a wet pop. Furious, she flung the jet into the sky, then spat a blue lightning beam that blew Dash 2 to pieces. Boom! Flames and a shockwave blossomed outward. The explosion startled Kaido, who had the Max Spark pressed to his head. He stumbled backward, his foot catching in a ditch, and he fell. The spark slipped from his loosened grip and flew up into a high arc. From the land of light to the Marvel universe, under the incredulous stare of thousands watching, the Max Spark traced a perfect parabola and, splat, landed square on Kaido's left forearm. Buzz, Max's unique entrance theme swelled, and an unbearably bright, multicolored light erupted from the spark. A towering figure began to form. Holy crap, he can transform like that? Amazing. That has to be the coolest transformation in Ultraman history. The Max Spark must have been terrified. It just flew out of his hand and did it by itself. Maybe it didn't trust Kaido to put it somewhere weird again. Ah! This is ridiculous. By the way, does Max, like the humans, have amnesia too? Probably not, but I swear if old Max shows up, it'll be over. Viewers shouted in the chat. In a single short clip, their expectations had been overturned again and again. This beat Hikari handing the Emperor a sword or Zafi catching fire. Max finally appearing felt like the end of the comedy, except it wasn't. It was only the beginning. Ellie, who'd been driven up the wall by the chaos, leapt to her feet. "Ultraman Max," she cried. At last, a dependable teammate had arrived, but the entrance music sputtered out as the light faded. The figure that struck a pose was indeed Max, only he'd transformed while still in Kaido Higashi's falling posture. He appeared half asleep, like someone who'd been woken mid-nap and hadn't quite registered where he was. Captain Hijikata stared at the big screen, then at the camera. "Who is this?" Mizuki blinked. "Why is he lounging in the shade?" Puhaha! The viewers lost it. Max had amnesia too, and had popped up in the most ridiculous position imaginable. People started calling it ultra shade sitting. The flush of laughter spread even among the ultra warriors in the land of light. None of them had ever seen a senior make such an entrance. Old Max offered no reaction. He had literally frozen, turned to stone like a statue, standing silently amid the noisy crowd. The rest carried on with the hilarity. On a distant planet, Jinga was slapping the floor with laughter. He knew a lot of Ultras, but he'd never seen old Max enter like this. Back when they fought the time-space castle, he'd thought Max the serious type. Apparently, there was a whole other side to his past. Jinga's laughter stalled as a nagging thought surfaced. Entrance method? Why did that sound familiar? He felt like he'd experienced something similar before. Hiss. When was that? Never mind, he told himself, and laughed again, patting Davi on the shoulder. Many viewers realized something else. Ultramen are living beings too, and of course Maiko's radio waves could have scrambled their memories. How would Max handle Maiko? Would he fight or collapse into an improvisational comedy act like the human teammates? The moment the thought hit them, everyone's eyes lit up with eager stars. They were more than ready to find out. How do we put this dart back in? How do we put this dart back in? Interesting. I thought only the human host had amnesia. I didn't expect Max to forget things too. Ellie thought she had it rough, but wow, Max's amnesia is on a whole other level. My heart goes out to Ellie. Haha! I bet Max will outdo Kaido Higashi in ridiculousness. Hey, he's moving. Look, look. Countless viewers leaned into their screens, not wanting to miss a single second. Max, you better be entertaining. On screen, old Max sat up, dazed, blinking left and right. Little noises escaped him. Huh? Ha? Humph? As if he'd woken up in the wrong world. He looked helpless, childlike, like a kid searching for his mother. The brief sequence had the audience in stitches. Then suddenly, Max looked up and froze. Cat Demon Maiku was standing right in front of him. He snapped to attention and scrambled to his feet. The stirring background music swelled. Max! Max! Ultraman! He roared, launched himself into the air, flipped gracefully into the river, and charged straight at Maiku. Maiku answered by raising its tentacles and letting out a threatening yowl. Max brought his left hand to his chest. A dazzling golden light pulsed from the Max spark on his wrist, the familiar opening to his ultimate attack, the Maxium Cannon. But then, instead of firing, Max froze. His left hand dropped, his arms crossed awkwardly. The imagined beam never came. Only a puff of water whispered across his fingertips. He had the pose wrong. The arms that should have formed a crisp inverted L were twisted into something that looked more like a praying mantis. Silence fell over the feed. Viewers gaped. Maiku, standing opposite him, gaped too, eyes wide, pupils pinpricks, mouth agape as if it had seen a cat version of the apocalypse. A beat later, someone in the Land of Light lost it and started laughing. Then the rest of the Ultra Warriors joined in. Max had really lost it. He couldn't even get his starting pose right. The absurdity made everything that had come before look tame. Old Max remained frozen with a bewildered expression that matched the clip, which only made the others laugh harder. The video kept playing. Perplexed by Maiku's dumbfounded stare, Max tried again. He slid his left palm a little to the side. No beam. He scratched his head, puzzled. He tried sliding his hand the other way. Still no beam. After several failed attempts, he brightened as if he'd had an epiphany, only to wind up interlacing his fingers instead. Ace snorted on camera. Max can do finger beams now? Max's failures kept escalating. He tried calisthenics-like stretches, then a ridiculous one-legged golden rooster pose. Maiku simply stood there, slack-jawed and drooling, as if mesmerized by the odd genius across the water. Viewers were so amused, they started snapping screenshots of both Max and Maiku's expressions. Laughter filled chat rooms and comment threads. Back in the Land of Light, Father of Ultra shook his head, half laughing, half sad. He didn't expect this poor kid to be having such an embarrassing day. He leaned toward Taro. Open a monster combat class later. Call Max in and have him tell the youngsters about the weird monsters he's faced, especially Cat Demon Maiku. Taro nodded emphatically. The whole scene was too hilarious, and a cautionary tale nobody wanted to emulate. He did speculate, though. Even if Max had forgotten the beam commands, his muscle memory and combat instincts should still be intact. Surely Max wouldn't keep slipping up, he thought. He was wrong. Back in the footage, after failing repeatedly, Max started pawing at the ornament on his forehead. The blue shining core embedded there began to glow. Then, with a comical plop, The Maxium sword slid out of its place and fell into the water. Gino and Labut, watching the stream, suddenly understood why Max had been dazed earlier. They exchanged a look and burst out laughing, forgetting to respond to old Max's earlier plea. Max fished the sword out, gave it a couple of theatrical shakes to fling water off, and then did nothing useful with it. He couldn't get it back into its slot. He held the sword's headpiece backwards and shoved at his head ornament, trying to force it in. The more he forced it, the more he banged his head. Viewers were howling. If this was the beginning of the fight, someone joked, how on earth would Max defeat Maiku? With comedy? The clip cut to the dash base briefly. Ellie stared at the bewildered Max and said warily, even Ultra Warriors are living beings. He's forgotten how to fight, Mizuki finished. Back to the video. Max eventually gave up trying to jam the sword in and in a fit of exasperation simply tossed the Maxium sword aside. Panic and embarrassment mixed on his face in a way that made the audience laugh until they cried. Max was floundering. Max was anxious. Max was, in every sense, adorably useless. Today's Daily Journal of Failure. One good piece of news, one bad. Good. This book just got a top 30 newcomer badge on the Fanfiction charts. Quick, absorb this luck. Bad. It didn't help. Traffic actually dropped. Not making sense, is it? The audience was in stitches. Ellie in the broadcast finally snapped. She grabbed the microphone and called out to old Max, who was furiously throwing darts. Ultraman Max, calm down. Max spun around, bewildered, staring up at the dash base. Who's talking? Ultraman Max? Who? Me. Only then did everyone notice the mothership was still spinning, and that Shion was still whirling around inside it. The image of a man in a rocket, dizzy and helpless, was so pitiful it was hilarious. Old Max pointed at himself. Yes, you mean me, Ultraman Max. Ellie, as cool as any AI, gave him clear instructions. Now, follow my directions. Max cupped an ear in confusion, and Captain Hijikata in the base, apparently echoing him, made the exact same gesture. The whole scene was slapstick. The crowd laughed harder. Somebody save me. Shion, trapped in the spinning dash mothership, felt nauseous and flailed his arms. Beeps sounded. He must have hit the wrong controls. Somehow the spinning ship fired a laser beam. It struck old Max squarely, blasting him into the water with a great splash. Shion, are you out of your mind? Ellie and Mizuki cried in unison. Captain Hijikata, frozen in thought, suddenly blurted, this female team member, and then forgot her name entirely. The audience roared. Even the captain couldn't keep it together. Old Max fell into the river, soggy and humiliated. Before anyone could feel too sorry for him, Cat Demon Maiko, who'd been dozing and drooling, was hit by the stray laser as well. Snapping awake, it let out furious, pained meows. Who attacked me? Maiko screamed, spotting the spinning mothership. It's you little punk. It reared up, tentacles lashing, and charged the dash base. Captain, the monster's coming this way, someone shouted. Ellie tried to get Hijikata moving. Instead, the big-brained captain yelled back, You're too loud. Who has time for monsters now? And then collapsed into more indecision. Maiko didn't wait. It shot a bolt of lightning from its mouth that hit the dash base dead on. Power surged. Electricity cascaded through the facility, and the captain went up like a smoking firecracker. The entire base lit up red alarms. The one small mercy was that the lightning strike hit the mothership and stopped its rotation. Shion, hair standing on end and smoldering from the shock, stumbled back into the command center, coughing and sputtering. The crowd loved it. The sight of the disheveled Shion, smoke rising from his hair, was comedy gold. Then more weirdness. An old man in military uniform strolled in with a few companions, casually eating a plate of curry. The original Ultraman, trying not to laugh, froze. The man looked exactly like his human host, Hayata. The woman beside him looked like a Kiko. Little Six's rumors about parallel universe human hosts did not seem so far-fetched anymore. Captain Hijikata, with theatrical urgency, shoved them into the dash mothership. It's time to deploy, sir. No surprise. The mothership, which had stopped moments earlier, spun up again. The captain got a standing ovation for that move alone. Ellie cut the chatter with a calm, almost maternal tone. You two just keep spinning over there. Then she turned her attention back to old Max, who seemed utterly lost. Ultraman Max, first, do you know about the Max Blade? It's the golden thing on your left arm. Max Blade? Max blinked. Left arm? The camera swung to him. He looked completely flummoxed, staring at his hands as if discovering his own body for the first time. Left arm. Which side is left? The audience howled. After a few breaths, Ellie offered a simple explanation. It's the hand you use to hold your bowl when you eat. Like a light bulb flicking on, Max brightened. He understood, or so everyone thought. Then he struck a pose as if getting ready to eat, one hand cupped like a bowl, the other holding imaginary chopsticks. He stabbed at the air with his right hand, like a man afraid his food would be snatched away. The viewers finally got it. The show's title, Fastest and Strongest, Rushing into the Cafeteria, was literal. Max was in full ultra-feasting mode. The sight of him frantically devouring the empty air was too much. The chat exploded with laughing emojis. Suddenly, Max froze mid-mime. He looked at the hand cradling his imaginary bowl as if he'd found the universe's greatest treasure. He raised it solemnly. I know this one. It's this hand. The hand that holds the bowl is the left hand. Praise me! Thank goodness he isn't left-handed, someone muttered, half in relief, half in disbelief. Before anyone could bask in the absurd triumph, Cat Demon Maiko lost patience. With a feral meow, it fired another lightning bolt. Old Max, still unprepared, was blasted again and went flying into the water in a soggy, ignominious heap. Back inside the dash base, the crew were in full-blown chaos. Some wanted to rush out and fight Maiko, others insisted on finishing their curry, and a few desperately needed the bathroom. It was a riot of priorities. Old man Futagami, spoon in hand, stared at his plate and then screamed, "Are you blind?" He hoisted his curry like a banner, striking a pose that made viewers gasp. The movement was eerily like a transformation pose. For a moment, everyone wondered if he was about to become Ultraman himself. Ellie had had enough. Even the AI had limits. Steam started to billow from her casing, CPU overload, and the chat cheered. Ellie's had it with these god-tier teammates, someone crowed. If I were her, I'd short-circuit seeing Max not even know left from right. Then a new alert cut through the madness. An urgent ding-dong from Ellie's console. Max's status lights began flashing red. Ultra Warriors have strict time limits on Earth. His energy was almost spent. The audience's laughter turned into a collective intake of breath. Max was nearly out of power, and he still didn't know how to fight. How could he protect the planet like this? The viewers watched, breathless and divided between horror and hilarity, as the situation teetered on the edge of disaster. 79. 3 cats versus Old Man Ding Dong. Ding Dong, the energy indicator is all ready. Eli blinked. The anger on her face dissolved into alarm. Oh no, Ultraman Max's transformation time was about to run out. Old Max himself, who had been standing in the river, heard the chime and lowered his head. The timer light on his chest was flashing red. He froze. He'd gotten out of the water. Had Ultraman Max finally remembered? The audience leaned forward, expecting him to spring into action. Then everyone realized how naive that hope had been. Ultraman Max inspected the flashing light with the baffled expression of someone seeing a foreign object on his own body. Slowly, hesitantly, he reached up and poked it with an index finger. Hiss! He yanked his hand back as if it had burned. What was this thing? It actually felt warm. He poked it again, twice more. Ha-ha! Ultraman Max actually forgot about the timer! Geno and Lebet guffawed on the Land of Light Plaza, slapping Old Max on the shoulders and laughing until they cried. They had never expected the usually stoic Ultraman Max to have such an embarrassingly human lapse. It was too rich. In the space garrison, Zero watched Cat Demon Maiko with a frown. Maiko's fighting skills weren't spectacular, but his memory-disrupting power was treacherous. If you met him unprepared, many could be crippled by it. We need to research devices that block psychic waves, Hikari said thoughtfully. How should we handle a monster like that? Zeta asked, all curiosity and determination. He'd decided to learn from his senior's mistakes, so when he went to Earth, he wouldn't create any socially mortifying incidents of his own. How to deal with it? Zero stroked his chin. Either act as soon as he appears, or Hikari develops some kind of defense device, or... He glanced back at the sulking Ultraman Max on the plaza and smirked. We could just see what Max does. Zeta reached to clap Zero on the shoulder. Zero shoved the hand away. I told you not to call me Master, he snapped. Back in the live feed, Eli, broadcasting to the whole world, calmly explained the basics like a kindergarten teacher. That's the energy indicator light. You can only stay on Earth for 3 minutes. When it turns on like that, you've only got 1 minute left. 3 minutes. 1 minute. Old Max looked bewildered, but the quicker flashing red made him realize something was wrong. Then, meow meow. A chorus of cat cries cut across the comms. 2 more white lights erupted on the river's surface. The water churned as if something else was surfacing. Whoosh! A creature leapt out, another cat demon. This one looked like Maiko, but with a black tail and black ears. It was Cat Demon Kuro. Old Max stared at it in confusion, wondering if the monsters could create clones. Before he could process that thought, another figure shot out of the water, an orange cat, Tama. The 3 monsters formed a triangle and closed in on Ultraman Max. How could this be? Even Eli's voice trembled. If it had been one cat demon, she could have directed Max. But 3 at once? That was a disaster. Viewers remembered the news that 3 meteorites had fallen from space. This explained the trio. One cat demon could sap the team's minds. 3 at once. The 3 tails bristled. They released a chorus of shrill, piercing meows, then unleashed a terrifying spray of high-temperature energy, red, yellow, and blue, straight at Ultraman Max. Ah! The current struck with the force of electric shocks. Max convulsed and stumbled, collapsing to the riverbank. The scattered energy bolts hit the Dash team base as well. Inside the base, every member except Eli was affected, memory disturbance spreading through the rooms like a virus. They began to forget names, faces, even what they were doing. The base rocked and shuddered. It felt like an earthquake. Team members struggled to stay upright and fell one by one. Ultraman Max, still trapped in the 3-colored stream, writhed in pain. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. The timer on his chest began to flash faster and faster, its rhythm chasing his heartbeat. If this kept up, he would run out of energy and fall in battle. The camera cut back to the base. The Dash team's memory loss deepened until some of them no longer recognized themselves. The situation was utter desperation. Viewers around the world laughed nervously at first, but the smiles faded into worry. Everyone could see the true horror of the cat demons. Their power didn't just harm the body, it erased who you were. Humans, Ultra Warriors, anyone, it didn't matter. The monsters left empty, confused shells in their wake. I just want to protect you. I just want to protect you. Ultraman Max thrashed under the hail of electricity, each bolt shredding at him, but the determination in his eyes did not waver. Breath came ragged, his strength was ebbing. He couldn't explain why he was still standing. Deep inside, a steady voice kept insisting, "You cannot fall." In a daze, the scene before him shifted. Across the ever-expanding galaxy, a dazzling, dreamlike planet bloomed into view for all who watched. M87 Nebula. It's the land of light, the home of the Ultra Warriors. People cried out in surprise. Even with his memory gone, forgetting how to fight, forgetting who he was, Ultraman Max still remembered his beloved home. He could not fall. He clenched his fists against the continuing electrical onslaught. "Brother Max, keep going," Ellie called, snapping out of her frozen state. She pointed urgently. "Jump to the left." Max, jolting to attention, slammed away the electricity and leapt, landing directly in front of the Dash team base. Ellie's voice was calm, devoid of panic, only unwavering trust. "Behind you are the people who want to protect this planet. They are your companions," she said. "It's all right if you can't remember everything. Just fight to protect them. If you remember that, that's enough. Because you are an Ultra Warrior. You are Ultraman Max." Her eyes pierced through his fog and found him. "You are a hero named Max. You are an Ultra Warrior. These are my companions. I must protect them." Her words, her look, stirred something deep within him. Max braced against the electricity and stood firm. Not only had he pulled himself together, countless viewers watching across the worlds were fired up too. The sight of an Ultra Warrior refusing to fall sparked something primal in everyone: hope. "Ultraman Max, keep going. Fastest and strongest, Max. Go, go, go." Amid the roar of encouragement, Max shouted and pushed off, launching himself into the sky. His confusion melted away. He might have forgotten his formal techniques, his finishers, even his name, but he still had purpose. "My energy is nearly gone. I am wounded, but I am still standing. I just want to protect you all. That is enough. For the sake of protection, can't I invent a move on the fly?" "Oh, ah!" He spun in the air, flames licking across his body, like a blazing wheel suspended high above the clouds. It looked ridiculous, and he didn't care. For a hero, it wasn't the pose that mattered so much as the will behind it. Hwah! A thunderous boom split the sky. From the center of the clouds, 3 streams of brilliant light descended. A crimson beam, a torrent of burning light, slammed into the 3-headed cat demon with perfect aim. Meow! 3 agonized shrieks shook the heavens. The creature was consumed by the beam as if by divine fire. It could not flee. It collapsed on the spot, faces frozen into X-shaped expressions, then dissolved into a puddle of mud and sank into the water. The raging seas calmed. The waves finally subsided. Boom! Ultraman Max landed, steady and tall. He panted, a little disheveled, but to the countless eyes watching, he radiated something almost holy. Even the robot Ellie had tears in her optical sensors. Across the many worlds, thunderous cheers and applause exploded. The mood among viewers felt like the flush of New Year's morning, uncontainable joy. No one could resist him now. Ultraman Max did it. Yay! I love him so much. Even with amnesia, he still wants to protect Earth and humanity. I'm crying. Rushing into the cafeteria is true. Fastest and strongest is true too. Old Max, you're amazing. Holy, Ellie's crying, and she's a robot. If it were me, I'd cry too, winning with such divine teammates. No more torment. Ellie is so cute. I want to marry her. Over in the Annihilation dimension, Liu Bei sipped his coffee and smiled at the man across from him. Speaking of heroes, don't you feel anything? Liu Bei asked. The man in the black leather jacket shook his head. I'm not much of a hero. When I manifested this gun earlier, I was surprised. I didn't expect you to appear with it, Liu Bei said, eyeing the evol thruster in Jun's hand. Jun grinned, sunny and easy. Neither did I. He meant the 100% feedback of injuries. Liu Bei didn't argue. We've gathered a lot of hope value now, Liu Bei went on. A few seniors can come support us anytime. We could form a team in Bu, Super Ultra 8 Brothers. A small stir rippled through the Annihilation dimension, a faint shock from a warrior of light. Back on the land of light, Geno looked at Max with delighted surprise. Wait a minute, Max. You have that move? Why haven't I seen it before? What move? I don't know, Max replied, a hand going to his head ornament before he changed it to patting the back of his head instead, afraid he might accidentally summon the Maxium sword again. Libut, analyzing from the side, offered an explanation. This move was improvised by Ultraman Max while he had amnesia. After his memory returned, he simply forgot the fiery wheel technique. The other Ultramen nodded. Captain Ri agreed. This was a spontaneous creation, born of Max's single-minded drive to protect. When he had amnesia, his focus was purely defense. Out of necessity, he had innovated. It was bold, unexpected, exactly the kind of thing the fastest and strongest would do. Max, Max, 1, 2, 3, throw. Laughter and cheers rang out as dozens of hands hoisted Max and hurled him skyward, catching him and flinging him higher. The land of light echoed with jubilation, and then, at that exact moment, the broadcast cut to an overlay. Ultraman Max main story, fastest and strongest, rushing into the cafeteria. Now playing Ultraman Max Easter egg, Environmental Ambassador Max. The cheering Ultra Warriors froze, eyes drawn to the screen. They had even forgotten the friend they'd just tossed into the air. With a splat, Max fell back to the ground. His smile froze as he read the 4 words on the screen. Environmental Ambassador? What the heck? Today's Diary of a Failure. I really like that quote from director Sakamoto. For some reason, he said Ultraman Max is one of his personal favorites. Then again, he also talked about hanging me up to incubate eggs in Ultra Galaxy Fight, the absolute conspiracy as a tribute for the finale, and about getting knocked down with 2 sticks and 1 claw in Mega Monster Battle, Ultra Galaxy Legend the movie.